and diverse communities the opportunity to play baseball and softball. This week's story takes us to Minnesota, where the Twins' Nike RBI program is helping local coaches. Check it out.
For the coaches today, we have 15U and 18U coaches come.
Good morning again. Do want to welcome everyone to our second installment of 2025 Breakfast at the Hop. We look forward to bringing this series back every year with the two-year-old qualifiers, and we're joined by a horseman, and we're joined by one of the best horsemen this week. We're going to be joined by Ron Burke, coming off a big weekend a week ago, a week removed from that North America Cup win with Blueprint. Have you kind of soaked it all in coming off that big night last week?
Yeah, no, it was very good. It's a great place to watch races, and it also was a great race. Like, I think it was one of the better North American Cups, especially to me because we won. But, I think everybody that was there enjoyed it. It was a great race.
Absolutely. I got to ask, you get the 3/4 in 119 and change, and you're on the engine. How are you feeling turning for home?
It's the best part about him is I have so much confidence in him. He came up 119 and 1, and I go, that's good. We're all right, and then and I know watching it on video, because I've watched the video, it looked like he was going to maybe get beat. Watching it live, it never even occurred to me that he was getting beat. He was like always just ahead, and there was not, letting that horse by. So, it was a great race. I'm super proud of the colt. Obviously, he's a homebred, half Indiana bred, he's out of the Rockin' Image mare. So, I'm very happy with him.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about the series. It was this time last year, you were sitting down with me and Emily, and you gave us a little hint that you had a Sweet Lou out of a Rockin' Image mare that you really liked, and lo and behold, it ends up being Blueprint, goes on to win the Breeders' Crown last year. Oh, you kind of knew pretty early you had a good one there. Did you expect this out of him, and when did you know he was the real deal?
I mean, you never expect that you're going to definitely win the North American Cup, but I knew it was real early, 230 or 240. I said, Mark, this is the best colt we've had in a long time. You could just tell he does nothing wrong. He's the most efficient gaited horse I've ever seen. Like, he just, he's perfect mouth, will to win. Everything about him was just super. And, we set the expectations high for him, and he went out and met them.
Yeah, and I know obviously the North America Cup, that's the first big one. I'm sure a list of many big ones you're hoping to get with him. What do things kind of look like going forward for Blueprint, and what's kind of the goals ultimately for the rest of the season?
It's Meadowlands Pace, then obviously Adios. Then, it's the hard decision because we have the Kentucky Sire Stakes, which we love, but, the finals on Sunday, the jugs on Thursday. I'm already starting to push. Like, I have other colts that are very competitive in the Kentucky Sire Stakes. I would rather prep him for the jug. I'm a big fan of the jug, and I think this colt could do something special if we gave him the chance there. So, we'll have to kick it around between me and Mark and the other partners. But right now, my vote is we're going to the jug.
It's a good conundrum to have. I do know that, and look forward to seeing Blueprint down the road. I know we've got the first baby race on track. We'll talk a little bit more about that Kentucky program and what that's led to the last couple of years. We've got a break after this fourth qualifier. We can kind of open things up there. But again, we do have two-year-old trotters on track here for the fourth qualifier. We'll go down a couple of these. We're going to start with the one, Johnny Broad, Marvin Luna, Kenny Collier. Some of you know you do. Sixth place effort in that first qualifier. Still first full out of a dam that made 46K, a Chapter 7 dam. That's something you're seeing more and more of. Chapter 7, everyone kind of jumped in. His first couple crops as a stallion proved to be so incredible as a stallion. And now people looking for those brood mares from Chapter 7. What are you kind of looking for in this Indiana program on the trotting side? What crosses do you like?
You know what? For me, it's always been Swan for All. Like, it's who I do well with. And, but there's one coming that I think is going to be like the new thing is Temporal Hanover. To me, is as good looking horse as I've ever seen. And I've heard great reports already from Dr. J that she's seen some already that are unbelievable. And, they're going to be in their sale here, and everything. So I'm excited for them. She says the rebuffs are great too, and it adds the Muscle Hill to thing. But right now, to me, Swan for All is still the king of the hill. But like, I think for the first time, he's going to have serious competition.
Yeah, and we've added more depth behind Swan for all the last couple of years. You do. Dover Dan's been very productive. Help is on the way, but I think a lot of excitement, as you said, Temporal Hanover, Rebuff. Those were big names when we got them. They both have the pedigrees. They both have the on-track aspect as well. So getting more depth. And Swan for All's been around for a long time now. It's been a little over a decade where he's been so dominant. You've had a couple great ones from Swan for All, Hannelore Hanover, MM's Dream, and so many more. But just Swan for All really changed the game in this Indiana program overall.
Yeah, no, for us, it was for years. It was Swan for All, and we didn't give a shit. The rest of them weren't going to make it for us. But like, they'll take the work, they'll hold up to being trained hard, and they really do become great aged horses. So it's going to be hard for me to change, but I do love the Temporal Hanovers. Like, I really have a lot of hope that that's going to be the next great sire here.
Absolutely looking forward to that. I know he stands at Premier Acres, our friends there up in northern Indiana. Again, kind of working our way down this fourth race trotters. We got at the 2, Mike and Mike, Marcus Miller, Irv Miller, 4 full from a dam that made $42,000. Another Chapter 7 mare there. This one, a brother to the likes of McLady of Hearts. She's made over $60,000 racing out of the McCumber barn. Come back a little bit later. We've got the 3, Russ's Boom Baby, Daughter of Help is on the way here. First Indiana foal from an Explosive Matter mare, 4 Wiggins, and one of those Swan for All colts. This first foal from a Yankee Glide mare that made $57,000. Trace teacher Jeff Cullifer teaming up there. 5 Shallow by Thy Name. Daryl Bontrager coming off that great year last year with one of these you do's, Gruesome Twosome. He's got another one here. This is the second foal from an Andover Hall mare that made $50,000. Got the 6 Wiggle Me and On Top of the Hill. If you go back to this family a little bit, you find the second dam is Wigwam Baby. She a former Indiana Sire Stakes champion that made over $250,000 for these connections. And the 7 has turned down another On Top of the Hill from the Gary Neefus barn from a dam that made $55,000. 7th full from her. So we got some older mares, some newer mares, kind of a good mix of what makes this Indiana program so different, as you do get mixes like this where you see names like On Top of the Hill, maybe some lesser known names to go along with the Swan for Alls and you do's.
I actually trained On Top of the Hill. That was part of the ill-fated elite trotting syndicate that we basically took $1.5 million and threw it over the hillside. But he was the best of them. So at least of the disaster idea, he was the best of them.
I know you got a couple later on. We'll talk about once you get on the card, but I want to talk about your start to Indiana this year. Your Indiana program firing on all cylinders, second in the trainer standings, doing a great job. You've got a couple good 3-year-olds we're going to talk about a little bit later on as well, but you guys really firing on all cylinders here at Hoosier Park, the start of the meet. What's been your thoughts on the meet thus far, and what are you looking forward to for the rest of the season?
Adam Rucker is, the last couple of years been here, and he's, moved into where he's got it figured out. And, the On to Norway horse was what a great pickup. Like, I love Starlight Frankenstein. I don't know which one's better, but they are very close. And, very good start. And we had horses that fit the right classes here. It's a good program again to where you can race overnights again. So we're happy to be here. And we're actually probably going to add a few more here in the next couple of weeks, which makes Gabe happy. So maybe he can keep us to 12, 15.
Yeah, that will make the boss happy. I do know that. Any new horses we can get in the box, that's what we're looking for around here. That being said, they are starting to move into line for this qualifier. Again, the starting gate picks up the baby races a little bit earlier. Going to pick them up in the backstretch, get them familiar with the starting gate. I know Michael Chamberlain is here on standby for us. He'll give us any changes for this 4th race qualifier. Then we'll send it up to him for the call as well.
And Jacob, just one change to mention here, and that is a driver change on the 5. Shallow Be Thy Name. It's Kevin Lambright. Kevin Lambright driving number 5 in this first of the baby races tonight, as the field now moving on to that second turn. Field is now turning into the stretch. And here they come. They are off. Johnny Broad to the inside and Mike and Mike. In the center, it's Wiggins. And from the outside, Turn Down. Next is Russ's Boom Baby. And the last two early on here are Shallow Be Thy Name and Wiggle Me. They're moving on to the turn, and it is Wiggins. Wiggins and Trace Tetrick showing the way here on that first turn. Next second is Mike and Mike, and Turn Down is racing third as they post a quarter of 32 seconds. To the backstretch they go. Wiggins is in front. Mike and Mike second, then a break of 3. Back to Turn Down. After that in fourth comes Johnny Broad. Another 2 lengths distant is Russ's Boom Baby. 2.5 back of that to Shallow Be Thy Name, and Wiggle Me is last of the 7 as they now approach the half-mile pole. Wiggins continuing to take them along. Wiggins is the leader, has been in front from the outset, 1:02. The time for that second quarter was 30 seconds, so they did pick up the pace slightly moving in that second quarter, and they're now on to the turn. Wiggins still the leader. Mike is second. Break of 5 back to Turn Down third, and then Johnny Broad. Russ's Boom Baby is next in fifth. And then it's 4 further to Shallow Be Thy Name and Wiggle Me. As they turn into the stretch, it is Wiggins. Wiggins is the leader with 3/4 up in 1:32.4, 30.4 for the third quarter. Wiggins the leader. Mike and Mike second. Now moving up on the outside, Johnny Broad has taken third as they enter the final 1/8 of a mile. Here comes Mike and Mike, now up to the outside of Wiggins. Mike and Mike and Wiggins, they're right together, and it's 6 lengths back to Johnny Broad. Mike and Mike takes over late, and Mike and Mike wins. Wiggins was second, then Johnny Broad, and it is a close finish for fourth with Russ's Boom Baby and Shallow Be Thy Name, 2:01 and 2.
Hasn't affected yet. Yeah, we haven't no tariffs yet on the horses.
Agricultural product.
Yeah, I don't know. Just we haven't had any tariffs. It was going to come on the Canadian side, and then right now it's paused. So.
Mike and Mike good in the morning here. Marcus Miller gave him the perfect pocket trip after Wiggins did all the lifting on the engine, but a good effort there by Mike and Mike. That second qualifier, a good step forward. I know that's what trainers are looking for in the spot. Well-bred son of Don't Let Him out of that Chapter 7 mare, as we mentioned. And I think Wiggins gave a good account of himself, first qualifier as well. Pretty much both looking very, very professional in the morning.
Yeah, the Wiggins passes the eye test. He looks like a good swan for all. He has the right look to him, and the other colt having the first time that where he come home 28 flat, so he's probably a little bit tighter. But those both, they look like good horses. That was a good start for the day.
Absolutely, and it is worth noting we've got a pretty good headwind in the stretch, so if you don't see the flashiest last quarters, the Hoosier Park Oval, it gets impacted by the wind more so than just about anywhere in North America. I will say that. So something to keep an eye there as we do have our first qualifier for the baby races complete, as we now are going to have a little bit of a break in between qualifiers. Now we've got some warm-ups happening. That leaves us an opportunity to chat a little bit, Ron. And let's talk about two-year-old season in the Ron Burke barn. What does two-year-old season mean for you? Is it a season of hope? Is it a season of stress? What does this time of year mean for the Burke barn?
No, obviously it's the culmination of a lot of work, especially now with us breeding them. You're seeing results almost 3 years after when you first put the plan in motion. But you got to have hope with them. If you don't like them already now, you're in trouble. And thank God we have a lot we like so far this year. But it's a little bit different than it used to be. We were quicker to have them ready before. Now I've learned that it's a long year, and I very rarely qualify back-to-back weeks. I, used to always go back-to-back. Now I'll go a week, skip a week, go a week, maybe skip a week, then start racing. Because I just want them to have, good experiences and stay fresh. And, it's fun. Like, I really do enjoy it. Like, it's the culmination of 3 years of work, or at least a year of work. And, you hope to do well, and you actually need to do well. We have a lot of money tied up in these babies.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask is how this has kind of changed for you guys over the years. Now breeding more, as I said, but when you guys first got started, it wasn't like the young horses were the top focus for the Burke barn. Now you guys have led more and more into the youngsters. You're breeding more, as I said. So how's that experience been as a whole from, getting started in this industry to where you are now?
Yeah, no, for sure. We were claimer people. We just raced claiming horses, and then we were aged horses, and it grew and grew. And, we became way better trotting trainers when we started buying Muscle Hills. It was, we found out it was pretty easy. Just put the harness on them, and, that worked. And, as you get better babies, it's amazing how much smarter you get. So we've done a better job of, picking babies. We've done a better job of buying babies, and I'm sure we've gotten better. Like, that's the nice thing when you have 90 a year, you get plenty of experience and plenty of things to try different ways. And, we've settled into, I tell people all the time, like, my way is not necessarily the right way. It's the right way for me, and that's why I tell people all the time, don't worry about what, other people are doing. Do what you do and see if it works. And, if it then doesn't work, maybe try something else.
And that's another thing too, Ron. On the breeding side of things, that's been a relatively new addition to your guys' arsenal. What's the learning curve then there? What are you guys looking for on the breeding side? How do you determine what broodmares you're going to keep? What's that whole process look like?
It's funny. We tend to keep the broodmares that we believe in that are not commercially viable, that we couldn't sell, but we still feel that they haven't deserved to get a shot. And now a little bit, we're starting to keep maybe one out of the real good families we have. We're keeping that one here or there just to build our broodmare. But, it was basically brought in that we believed in Sweet Lou, and we didn't want him to, fail. So we decided we would help him with it every way we could and breed some of our own. And it worked out, and then, we got some other studs and we started helping them. And, next thing you know, we had a full-fledged, I think we're up to 40 some mares now. It's the next thing is to buy a farm and do the whole process ourselves, and with Dr. J's help and stuff. But part of our reason I think we've done good, we have all our babies with top farms, and that's the thing is we learned as we went. I thought you just put the semen in the mare, get full 9 months later, there you go, it's easy. No, it's way more involved than that, and I didn't realize that, now from just talking to the people that we have horses with and stuff, they do a great job. It's way, way harder than I thought.
And does that make it a little bit more rewarding too when you run into a situation like Blueprint, or I know a couple of years ago in the Breeders' Crown here, you went 1, 2, 3 with horses you bred in the Breeders' Crown, the 2-year-old filly Pace that year with My Girl EJ. Does it add just a little extra sense of pride when you do have a good one there?
No, it's a lot more pride. I can't imagine the people that actually raise them in their backyard and do it themselves. It must even be 5 times better. But even just that we knew we picked the mare, we picked the stud, we paid for it along the way. We saw it multiple times while it was coming. That makes you so much closer. So I can't the people that are actually breeding them at their farm, raising them at their farm. That has to be the greatest feeling in the world.
Absolutely. I know it's something we've done quite a bit. My family has. And like I said, you get to see him from start to finish. It's absolutely one of the coolest things. But you talked about Sweet Lou and wanting to support him as a stallion, and that's gone a long way. What a stallion he has been. A son of Yankee Cruiser, not in the pedigree that's necessarily going to jump off the page in Sweet Lou, but he's been the Pace and Stallion of the Year the last couple of years, deservedly so, just throwing monster after monster. Did you see this coming?
We always believed, right from the get-go, and thank God for Worry Butte, because that was his first star from his first crop that it gave people, to keep giving him a chance. And, that's the thing. It's part of a numbers game. If you don't get 140 breedings, you're not going to do good, because now your chances of success are so far down. And then it's kind of funny that the better you do and the higher your stud fee gets, the better mares you get. Because nobody's going to breed a cheap mare to a stud that costs $25,000. They become, their success leads to more success. He made it with the first couple of years. He bred some average mares and threw good horses. Now he gets great mares, and he deserves it. But he's also going to even throw better horses as we go forward, just due to the mares that he's getting.
And going back to Sweet Lou as a racehorse, I know we talked about him a little bit last year. I think something that stood out to me last year is you said Sweet Lou was a real learning experience for you. You maybe learned what not to do in some situations with Sweet Lou, but an incredible 2-year-old, wickedly fast, made that transition to 3, had a good 3-year-old year, but then it was this 5-year-old campaign where he really came through and became the horse we all thought he would. But Sweet Lou as a racehorse, what do you remember and what has he passed down to his offspring?
Like, he was a great 2-year-old. Then 3-year-old was a struggle. Just things didn't go right. Like, I know one thing: I will not train Blueprint in 48 the week of the Meadowlands pace like I did with him, And then as a 4-year-old, we started to see, and it was right at his 4-year-old year. At the end of the year, I had figured out like what he wanted and then the addition of Pierce, that was it. Like, for whatever reason, Ronnie clicked with that horse. He figured it. And from there on, it was just great. It was a horse that we saw at 2, that at 4, he had showed signs, and then 5, he was the best horse in the country. And, that's what I said. We learned a lot off him. And like I said, Blueprint's not going to trade at 48 the week of the Meadowlands pace, I guarantee.
Is Sweet Lou, or is Blueprint rather, is he kind of the spitting image of his father? Is he a very different horse? What is the correlation there?
It's funny. He has more. I think he looks more like Confederate. He's like a bigger version of Confederate. It's funny. That's the first thing when I first saw him go, I said, "Oh my God, we have Confederate." So we were happy. But he has Lou's high speed, but maybe even a better gait. And like, I hate to ever, it's blasphemy to knock Lou, but maybe he's a little grittier, like just a little bit more refuses to lose kind of thing. So. It's a long way before he is Lou, but he's climbing and climbing quick on him.
Absolutely. And he is one of a couple really nice 2-year-old colt paces you had last year. They all started in Kentucky together, Sippin' and C-Rock being the other one, the world champion there. Do you want to talk about the Kentucky aspect? And we're seeing that more and more kind of become the epicenter where a lot of these Grand Circuit horses are going to get their start, especially the 2-year-olds. It sets up well to where in the late summer you can start at the Red Mile. It bleeds right into the Grand Circuit at the Red Mile, and then you can go on to the Breeders' Crown or some of the late fall stakes from there. So what has Kentucky meant to you guys? Where do you guys see that going in the future?
Yeah, no, Kentucky's got a great program now. And, the first divisions at Oak Grove, I don't think you get the best ones always to show there because it's early, it's very hot, but the money's still good, so you're still going to get some good ones. But then Lexington, you get the best of the best. It's a great track. You can go there basically, train, race, and not leave till you go to the Breeders' Crown. It takes off the miles that they got to be up and down the road, and it also keeps their legs fresh and everything. So I think it really is an advantage. The problem is it's just getting tougher and tougher. The amount of horses at Oak Grove that showed up this year are so much more than last year, and I think we're going to see it at the Red Mile. It's going to be way more divisions, and you're not going to see 4 and 5 horse $80,000 races. You're going to see 10 horses in that. So it's good for the program, but it's not going to be as easy to make money as it maybe has been in years past.
And then a horse like Blueprint and those other colts. I mean, obviously the Red Mile, as I said, it's a great racetrack, fastest strip of dirt, especially when you're racing late summer, early fall. But you were racking up a bunch of sub 50 miles for a 2-year-old. Does that bother you at all? And how do you kind of balance out trying to keep a 2-year-old fresh, get all you can out of their 2-year-old campaign while still trying to have a horse you're going to shut down at the end of the year where you can build upon?
Truth is, if you make enough as a 2-year-old, you don't have to worry about it. So I don't usually try to delay earnings. I get what I can get, and then we'll figure it out as we go. Some horses I've raced hard as 2-year-olds, they came back great as 3. Some horses I raced easy as 2-year-olds, they came back horrible at 3. I don't really know if there's a correlation. I try to be a little bit more careful than I used to be with starts because there's so many more options out there now. If you show up with every race, you're going to have 22 starts on a 2-year-old. But it's a hard thing. But being on a good service, I think, makes it more. And I got to give the shout out to the track crew here. The track today was wonderful. I trained a bunch this morning, and it's exactly how a track should be. It's fast, but it's also has a nice cushion. And people like to complain when the track's bad. You got to give people credit when it's good. And this track is really good right now.
Yeah, give Cooper Keeler and his team a lot of credit. We've heard nothing but good things all spring. It's been a wet spring here in Indiana, so the fact that they've been on top of it like they have, just a huge testament to the job they're doing. I know we've talked a little bit on the grand scheme of things. Let's talk about the Indiana program as a whole. I know a lot of this kind of starts last fall when you're going to the yearling sale, starting to look at yearlings. What does that process look like, especially in the Indiana program? Who's looking at yearlings? When are you guys going to look at yearlings? And how do you kind of pick on what you're going to like there?
Dr. J. Bridget Jablonski does all our looking now, especially she's out here a lot now with being involved with the Midwest Speed Sale. So, you know, we're going to even get more views, and I love that, you know, and it's good options. You know, we breed a few out here. We like some things. Lubet is, you know, one of our very fast 2-year-olds that I, you know, was disappointed he got hurt as a 2-year-old, never came back at 3. That the horse that I thought he really should have been. Really, if at the end of 2-year-old year, I would not have traded Lubet for Confederate. Now it turns out I was way wrong, but you know, I also thought Chapter 7 wouldn't make a good sire either. So I come up with some dumb stuff once in a while too. But you know, like Dr. J does a great job out here, and I love the sale now. They're, you know, it's going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And Thursday's a way easier day for me to get off than the Friday morning of the Breeders' Crown. So, you know, I think they're going to be the, you know, a little bit top heavy. The, you know, better horses are going to go Thursday, and you know, that'll give me a chance to come here and like bid on the ones I probably would have bid on anyhow.
Yeah, Dr. J involved in that sale, and also Jamie McCumber going to be the sales manager for that sale, already doing a great job there. What's that McCumber name mean to Ron Burke? Ricky and Jamie, I know they worked for you guys for a long time, went out on their own, but 2 incredible people, and I know they've been great to you.
Yeah, no, they both have been great, but Jamie's special. Like that's the greatest thing they did was her ability to communicate, her ability to coordinate. She is as honest as a person you will ever meet. Like she just will not do, you know, anything that's going to put you in bad light. And like, I think, you know, they're very pleased with her. And I think you're going to see it. The sale's going to run great. Not that no knock on the sales company before, you know, but you know, like sometimes we need new ideas, and he's got ideas. Like they may not all work, but he's going to give them a shot. And, you know, like I said, we keep doing the same thing over and over again and then complain about the results. You know, it's kind of dumb. So let's try some different things and see what happens.
Yeah, we look forward to having Jamie. She's actually going to close the series out that first week, and in July we're going to have her back in action. But again, coming back to this Indiana program, pretty unique program here in Indiana. The way it works out, if you do have a sire stakes horse, you get 6 legs for a 2-year-old, 8 for a 3-year-old. So you have an opportunity to make money for a long time throughout the year. You can kind of hunker down and stay in Indiana. And you guys have taken advantage of that a lot over the last several years. So what kind of draws you to Indiana?
You know what makes it nice? No shipping. You know, the colts that come here, they stay here. They, you know, they're not dragged up and down the road. It's a great surface. It's a bigger track, so that, you know, they can stretch out. They learn to race correctly here. You know, the one thing is, once you learn to race here, you can go race anywhere because they finish here. Like you don't walk to the wire here. Like your horses are in full flight to the wire. And I think that's why you see these horses when they leave here, it translates very well to being aged horses everywhere else. So it's a great program that everybody's stepping up their game. You know, they followed it in Ohio too, like where better mares, better studs, you know, the game's moved to the Midwest more and more. And, you know, it's the one place where I do have 100% confidence that we can come invest in, and it's going to be here at least, you know, 5 years when I'm, you know, still wanting to race.
Absolutely. And you talk about, you know, you have to have a horse that'll finish the mile here in Indiana. Do you have to be a little more selective about the overnight horses you send here? Because this is a pretty unique race, place to race, especially if you're going to be an overnight horse. You got to be a horse that can get home in 26 and change every single week. You have to be pretty selective with the horses you send over here.
Yeah. And, you know, the money here is, you know, skewed for like claimers are very good. The opens are good, you know, but like it's a problem that you get down into lower conditions here. The money's not that good and they still go like crazy, you know, so you got to try to like maybe bring your best horses here, your claimers here, and then your young horses here. And that's, you know, what fits, you know, this track. And, you know, it's what we try to do with all the tracks, pick out what, you know, their strengths are. And then we try to, you know, attack their strengths. So, you know, I think it's worked pretty well for us for here, but I do like horses here, like to race as a 4-year-old and then move them to another track at 5, because I think they learn to race correctly here.
Yeah, and I know, again, you've got a couple later on in the program. For 2-year-olds in the Burke Barn, kind of what have they been in at this point? What's training look like at home or here on track here at Hoosier for Rutgers Barn? But what's that kind of look like before you decide to throw them into a qualifier?
Yeah, actually, they just showed up yesterday. We don't train them as fast as we used to. Like we would usually, the Pacers be in 57, the Trotters in 2 minutes. Now we're more like 59 and 2-2, but they've got plenty of miles in them and they've got, good sprints in them. But this year was a tough track with the weather. Even my track in Florida, I fell apart at the end because we had no rain. Then we came up here and we couldn't get them out of the rain. And I was a little bit worried, but like I've already qualified like 60 or 70 at the Meadows and Gateway, and they've been, if anything, better than they've been the years before, and they're fresher, so I'm not worried about it. Like the one filly in today I like a lot, the Trotting filly that we paid a lot of money on, I'm not sure of. She does everything right, and every time you ask her to go faster, she goes faster, but she doesn't do it till she's asked. So you just wonder how many times you can keep asking her before she, says, nah, I don't like this.
Yeah, and when do they begin to kind of lift and separate? When does the cream start to rise to the top where you start to know this is a good horse, this might be a great horse?
Bikes. First time you put them into bikes, it like they usually jump right out. Like Lou was middle of the road, first pack, first time in a bike. I thought this is the best horse. Mission Brief, first time in a bike. Tony Alanya was like, tell me that's not a 2-year-old. And I was like, that's the fastest horse I've ever sat behind.
Absolutely. A cool one there on Mission Brief is actually we've got the 5th race qualifier actually on the gate already. I'll go over a couple of these. The one, Kaylin, that's a full sister to Indiana Sire Stakes champion Natterday. She made over $350,000 for Lil Wayne Miller. We've got the 2, Jabberjaw. Aaron Stutzman trains and drives. This is Son of Swan for All. 4th full from that mare, Talking Tootsie. You got Clear the Stage, Trace Teacher. That's a Muscle Massive. We'll talk a little bit about another son of Muscle Massive a little bit later. The 4, Proxy's Photo. Anthony Schwarzentroober, an Ohio-bred son of Long Tom. The 5, Majestic Blast. You do half-brother to What a Swan, that former track record holder of 150-3 here at Hoosier. The 6, Mo, that's in range, an Ohio-bred there as well. 7, Pure Love. You do. Half-brother, or full brother rather, to Operator, that Indiana Sire Stakes winner in the 8, Touch of Ability. Another Don't Let 'Em, as we send it up to Michael Chamberlain.
Thank you, Jacob. A couple of driver changes to announce here in the 4, Proxy's Photo. It's Atlee Bender, and driving the 8, Touch of Ability, Vern Fisher. Horses are now in the stretch for this 5th qualifier of the morning, second 2-year-old race. And here they come. They are off. And a good beginning in the center for Majestic Blast, who just went off stride. Majestic Blast went on a break, also off stride, Touch of Ability at the back end. But moving up now is Pure Love, and Pure Love is taken over from Jabberjaw. Next to the outside 3rd, it's Mo. Then at the inside, Kay Lynn. Now on a break is Clear the Stage. As the field moves on the first turn, Proxy's Photo completes that lead group of 5 with the other 3 breakers trying to get back up with the main pack. The first quarter was 32-2, and they're moving to the back stretch. And it is Pure Love up top. Pure Love with the lead. Second is Jabberjaw. And then racing along 3rd, Kay Lynn. Next is Mo. Then Proxy's Photo, about 8 lengths back to Majestic Blast, who is 6th. And the other 2 are well behind the rest. As they now come to the half-mile point, it is still Pure Love who leads the half-mile 1:04.1. So they're banking onto that second turn, and Pure Love and Michael Oosting showing the way. Racing second is Jabberjaw. Then next in 3rd, Kay Lynn. Now 3 lengths back to Mo and 4 further to Proxy's Photo. Majestic Blast, another 8 behind that. They are coming to the top of the stretch, and Pure Love, Jabberjaw moves to the outside. Here comes Jabberjaw up to challenge the leader as 3/4 goes up in 1:34.2. 30-1, the time for the 3rd quarter, and now Jabberjaw leads. On the inside is Pure Love. Kaylin on the outside. Mo about 5 lengths off the leader. Pure Love finding more. Pure Love on the inside has come back to take the lead from Jabberjaw, and it is Pure Love who is the leader coming to the finish. Pure Love wins. Jabberjaw second, then Kaylin and Mo in 203.
It will be Pure Love. Mike Goosteen driving for Missy Essig again, a 2-year-old sister to Operator. We just saw him win an Indiana Sire Stakes a week ago out of the J. Hoxteller barn, and a very nice effort there on the lead throughout. They weren't going much the first 3 quarters, but actually got looked in the eye by the 2. Jabberjaw fought back to get the job done in this qualifier.
Yeah, no, that was a good qualifier. The filly looked good. I was shocked. It looked like a colt on the track, and then I looked down and saw that was a filly. That Operator's a very good horse. It's actually the one I worry most about racing my 3-year-olds against right now. And that was very good. And the 2 horse was good too. I thought he was going by, but that filly dug in, and and I kind of thought the 5 trotted nice. I watched him after he made his break. He still trotted nice. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a good horse too.
Yeah, absolutely. From the Tabby to Long Barn, there is the 5 Majestic Blast. We said he's a half brother to What a Swan, former Indiana Sire Stakes champ. Was first in 150-3 here at Hoosier Park. Also a sister to Swanya, an Indiana Sire Stakes performer, $250,000 earner there. So plenty of pedigree on the 5 Majestic Blast. And it's going to be Pure Love getting the job done in 203 in the 5th qualifier. I do want to let's talk about those 3-year-old colt trotters. You got Starlet Frankenstein and On to Norway. Starlet Frankenstein, he was a bargain buy for you guys at the Hoosier Classic out of a Southwind Frank Mare. I think that's what drew you guys to him, a son of Swan for all. I think we actually watched him last year as part of the series qualifying when you were pretty high on early, and he's really lived up to it for the most part. Yeah, no, it's had a few blips on the radar, but mostly he's been very good. I still think there's more left there. I don't think we've reached and I really know I can't separate him. I've now trained him twice with Adam. Like we trained him this morning together, and we couldn't really separate him at the wire. When we were letting him trot pretty good, and I was thinking, this is nice that these 2 are this nice, but I really don't know which one's better. And being honest, I think they're competitive on the Grand Circuit. When they get a chance to go against good horses, I don't think they'll embarrass us. Yeah, I think certainly so. On to Norway. He was kind of hidden on the Michigan Fair Circuit for much of his 2-year-old year. Popped up here at 3. Who did he catch the attention of that you guys wanted to buy in after his first couple starts? And what's been your first impressions of this guy since you got him in your barn? Now, the mayor of Indiana, Frank Baldacchino, basically called one day and said, "Hey, listen, I found the colt. This thing's really nice." And I'm like, yeah, whatever, Frank. And then I watched it, and I was like, yeah, it was pretty impressive. We've trained for Leander before, and then they worked out a deal where I thought it was advantageous to both of us. And I'm shocked. I don't know if I've ever seen a horse that enjoys his work more. If you watch that horse, he goes across the finish line every time, ear straight forward. He is so happy and just enjoying it. And that may be why he may end up being the better of the 2 colts. I've just never seen a horse that enjoys his work as much as that horse does. Yeah, and the plugs have been in across the wire for the last couple starts in Indiana Sire Stakes, going in 52 and change. Do you feel like you've even come close to scraping the bottom there, or how far do you think he can go? Yeah, he doesn't look like he's been, pushed yet. And he's big, he's strong. There's no reason, we were just talking off air. I'm shocked that Muscle Massive hasn't done better here. Maybe just didn't get the mares that, he probably deserved. We won the one time we won the Kentucky Futurity was with a Son of Massive, Snowstorm Hanover. And being honest, I think this is a way better horse than Snowstorm Hanover. So, I'm anxious to race this horse the rest of the year. And, honestly, moving forward, he's a gelding. He's big. He's beautiful. I'm hoping this is a horse that'll be with us for multiple years down the road, racing all over the country. I was going to ask, are these 2 the kind of horses where we've seen you do it in the past? Hannelore Hanover, Stream. I know she raced at the Henry Graver Jr. barn before the center where you were in her 4-year-old year, but you stay in Indiana here at 3 and maybe look to bigger and better things next year. I think for sure. I have a couple pretty good 3-year-olds, Grand Circuit types, and I don't really know if I can tell they're that much better, or if they're better in all than these 2. So these 2 are very professional. They do things right, and like I said, they learn to race correct here. You learn to finish. So I'm excited to race them, this year and next year. Let's talk a little bit about Stream. I know she was in action last weekend as well. I think 3rd up in the Armbro Flight. Now 6 years old, still going strong, knocking on the door of $2 million made. What were your first impressions when you got a hold of her in her 4-year-old campaign, and how have things been going the last couple of years for her?
It's funny. Frank called and said, "Hey, listen, watch this horse race. We're going to send it to you next year, probably. She's, another Hannelore." And I go, "Frank, do you know how dumb that is? There's not Hannelores just falling off the tree every year. She's pretty close if she ain't, and she really had a great year. Last year, maybe like things didn't go for her as well. We just seemed like we were always in the wrong spot. And then now this year, like, I just have not been happy with her. We did basically took her for a physical last week. We did find some things that we didn't know about her that I think we can help her now. And I'm excited because, like, I know that's a great mare and she wants to do her work. And, this is it. This is the 1 year we're going to race her. They said, I asked Frank that and he said, yeah. And then I'm excited for her as a brood mare. I think she could throw any kind of horse. That's like a true champion.
Are there a lot of similarities to Hannelore, both daughters of Swan for all? Any similarities between the two, or are they two pretty different mares?
They're both owned by Frank in part. They're both black. You know what? Hannelore was flightier, bigger, stronger. The other mare is just gritty. I don't know. Like, she tries harder than maybe any mare I've had. She's like, I would say she reminds me more of Buckeye St. Pat. The same kind. Like, when she's at her best, she's hard to beat. Like, you can just put her in the middle of the track and she'll go get them on her own. So she's really a great horse.
I remember her 3-year-old year. She swept Indiana Sire Stakes that year, all 8 legs and the final, and half the starts. I kept trying to beat her because she looked beat about halfway down the lane in each and every one of those starts. But you get her anywhere close down by the wire, she will get her nose on the line first.
Yeah, no, like when she won the Hambo Maturity, I knew, even though Jiggy had opened up on her, but if you don't put her away with 100 yards to go, it's on, because the last 100 she's going to re-engage and going to dig down, and that's got to be some good for the Grabers. They did a great job of training her down and thing, but part of that is just natural want to win, and that's what you're looking for. That's where you get champions.
Yeah, and you guys have teamed up with a couple. I know you have Dixie Dream as well. She's been an open mare here at Hoosier Park, another one that started in the Henry Graber barn. And I know you told us last year, when you get one from that barn, they're coming in tight. You're not going backwards with one of them from that barn. So he does a lot of great work. And I know, again, that's been a partnership between you guys and Frank. That's worked pretty well here of late.
Yeah, no, usually like I'm just trying to maintain what they're doing, we've had a couple this year that we got that I'm really happy that we picked up instead of, them. Like CC Rock and Rosie's been a surprise. I thought, they did a nice job, and, Adams did a great job because that's a weird horse. And he's got her, half figured out. And I give him credit because that mare could have went either way. She could have ended up in the scrap heap. And now I think she has a legit chance to be one of the better 3-year-old fillies this year here.
Yeah, she won a division of Indiana Sire Stakes last week with Trace Teatrick doing the driving. So we do have our field for the 6 starting to gather on track. And we got another 2-year-old trot in this spot. I'll work our way down here. We've got the 1 Sly Help, John DeLong Messiasic. Another help is on the way. This is the 12th foal from an old-fashioned farms mare. She went to Broadway Hall the first 7 times through Fashion Feline and on to Sly. Fashion Feline, a $500,000 earner there. I think this is going to be the second qualifier for Sly Help after he jumped it off behind the gate last time out. The 2 Swan Jaden, Marcus Miller, Irv Miller, son of Swan for All, is a full brother to Swan Jewel out of the Jeff Cullifer barn, racing in Indiana Sire Stakes this year in the 3-year-old trotting filly ranks. The 3 LT Will Be Awesome, Pete and Melanie Wren, another Ohio-bred son of Long Tom. I know you're in that Ohio program a little bit. Long Tom, a stallion you have much experience with?
Yeah, it's very good. And I'm surprised too. I didn't really think that was another one that I didn't really embrace at first, but he's really done a nice job. Sire's a nice horse. I think that's Swinging Nadine. I hit something out of this family. That's a good family.
Come back to the 4. We've got Impossible B, Marcus Miller, Irv Miller, Green Shoe. I know Green Shoe, a little bit hit or miss, maybe that first crop or two. Is that another one you've had much experience with on the nationals level?
Yeah, and they've gotten way better this year, as the second crop was way better than the first. And even some of the first crop got better at 3, this year. So I wondered if he would make it, but I'm pretty sure now he's got it figured out. He's going to do all right.
Yeah, and this one from a good family, the Dam. She's a sister to Brigham Dream, Cry's Dream as well. 2 great Grand Circuit mares there. The 5 Don't Ike, Trace Teacher, Jeff Cullifer, a Don't Let 'em. This one, the ninth foal from a Prince Pine mare, brother to the likes of JS Princess Glory, made just shy of $100,000. The sixth, Winning Dollars. Ricky McCumber Jr. trains and drives from that second crop of Breeders' Crown Champion $50 bill. Ricky also has the full sister to this one, 50 to win. She was third in the super final last year, recovered from going off stride behind the gate to be third in that spot. The seven, Great Commission. Aaron Stutzman with a help is on the way, coming off a winning qualifier in 202 and 3, home in 27 at the end of it. A half brother to Pinecraft. Now Nelly, who made over $125,000 in the 8, Swan Effect. Marvin Luna, Walter Haynes Jr. We've got a Swan for All, full brother to Urban Cowboy out of a Desjardins mare. Ron, you were talking about it though. Swan for All, he has been the king here in Indiana. I know you've had a lot of success with him. You just keep going back to the well there, and why wouldn't you? Because he has been the undisputed king of trot here in Indiana.
Yep, here we go. We're going to the gate here.
Qualifier number 6, just one driver change on the 2. Swan Jaden Atlee Bender is the driver there. A field of 8, and here they come. They are off. In the center, Don't Ike. And from the outside, Winning Dollars. Winning Dollars there on the outside now is going to go up and get that early lead. Don't Ike is next second. Then LT Will Be Awesome is racing third. With the field moving on to the turn, Winning Dollars is up top. Winning Dollars has it just over a length to Don't Ike. LT Will Be Awesome is racing next in third. Then after that, it's Impossible by Swan Jaden is next in fifth. After that, it's Great Commission, then Sly Help 7th, and it's 2 lengths to the trailer, and that is Swan Effect. 31 and 4, the time for the opening quarter. They're moving up the back stretch and leading the way, Winning Dollars. Winning Dollars still there from Don't Ike. A length and a half to LT Will Be Awesome. Then Impossible by Swan Jaden is 5th. With Great Commission, Sly Help is next. Swan Affect the trailer through a half in 102 and 4. 31 seconds for the second quarter, and it is Winning Dollars who leads on to the second turn. Winning Dollars in front, a length and a half. Don't Ike is second. LT Will Be Awesome next in third. Then after that is Impossible by Great Commission is moving up on the outside and making good progress here on the second turn. Then 6th is Swan Jaden. Sly Help is 7th, and Swan Affect is the trailer. As they come into the stretch, 3 quarters up, 133 and 4, a 31-second quarter there. And the leader remains Winning Dollars, but Don't Ike has moved to the outside. And then third, LT Will Be Awesome. Then it's Great Commission, who is 4th. The leader remains Winning Dollars. LT Will Be Awesome splitting horses. Here comes LT Will Be Awesome with a very strong finish. LT Will Be Awesome is going to win. Up for second, Impossible by, and then it's close third with Winning Dollars, Great Commission, 202 and 3.
So it will be the Ohio-bred LT Will Be Awesome 4-team Ren, that 2-year-old son of a Long Tom, a $27,000 yearling buy at the Ohio Select Sale last year. I know Team Ren going over to Ohio quite a bit. You spend a lot of time over in that Ohio program, as well as they've been really humming the last few years. Looks the part here. Does LT Will Be Awesome?
Yeah, no, that was a very good qualifier. Like, those look like nice horses he was in with, and he split them and, had the most alert trot finishing. So, Ricky's colt looked good. He hung tight. That was a good qualifier. That's the win people don't understand. It's more than you think it is today. That's why they're going to go a little bit more up the backside, and they're going to not probably see the, flashy last quarters, but they're going into a pretty good win. And I think it affects babies more than aged horses. They're not used to plowing into this yet.
And then speaking of the 6 Winning Dollars, again, you saw him cut the mile there. Send a $50 bill. $50 bill, is that one you've had much experience with? I know just his first couple crops here in Indiana.
Yeah, no, to me, I just, it was like a budget cut Swan for All. I was just going to stay with Swan for All. I think I've seen people done well with them, but, pretty much I don't buy enough of them to, in Indiana to play, to try to figure out things. I just go with the tried and true and just stay with Swan for All. But like I said, Temper, I'll give him a shot.
Yeah, and I think that's been interesting too with Swan for all doing so well. We've seen a couple of those where we saw Swan on a million come in, give that a shot. We've seen $50 bill, but the good mares are still going to go to Swan for all, and I think that's been the case overall. As he's continued to have most of the success there in that spot.
Yeah, no, he's a great horse, and just hurt by injury, and he's been a great sire. So, but like I said, him and Rebuff and Temporal, that's the first time that maybe you guys got the best ones off the track that year, and that's going to be something new for Indiana. So I do think you'll see a change, and they'll put a dent into him at least.
Yeah, and in this Indiana program, we were talking about it there, Gabe and I were earlier in the week. We do things a little bit backwards. We don't jump into the first crop stallions all that often. We've had a couple pop up here in recent years. Best in Show has his first crop on track. You also have Captain Midnight the last couple of years. People were very tepid on him, kind of proved to be right on that one. But we like the kind of tried and true. We've got a couple stallions that have been good for a very long time, and that seems to be where people continue to go back to.
Yeah, on the pacing side, you have Jake Handham in there and Tell It Like It Is. It's hard to go against those two horses. They consistently, year in, year out, put out top, colts and fillies. JK, I obviously have a little bit of, affinity because I trained him at 2 and 3. And, but to Tell It Like It Is that is a good sire. Like every horse we train by it, you just like, what good, hard trying horses. And that's half the battle is just to get him to want to do it. And they really are willing.
Yeah, they can be pretty energetic in the barn and can be a little bit difficult from time to time. But like you said, I found they always want to go and they like to go fast. And that, like you said, absolutely half the battle. On a national scale, first crop stallions, do you like to jump into first crop stallions or do you like to more stick with the tried and true there?
That's probably which the stallion is, like the first crop of Muscle Hill, we were all in. I thought he was the greatest horse I ever saw. First crop down by the seaside, I thought, same thing. It was the first time Ohio ever got the best horse to come off a track, and we did good there. So, it's a hit and miss what program they're at, what I thought about the horse. And that's why I said I'm not always right. I remember thinking Chapter 7, that's not going to work, and he's become now, he maybe even has unseated Muscle Hill, as the best sire, trotting sire in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. He is doing some great things. I believe Atlanta was a Chapter 7, if I'm remembering correctly. So, yeah, certainly a couple good ones there from Chapter 7, more than a couple good ones on the national scale. Coming back to Indiana, I want to talk a little bit about Best in Show and kind of the scenario of Best in Show. Obviously, won the Meadowlands Pace, a very productive racehorse, made over $600,000. But I think what stands out more about him is his pedigree, a son of Bettor's Delight, out of Put On a Show, that great mare, certainly pedigree for days. Kind of what do you make of that situation with a horse like Best in Show, a good racehorse, but you're looking probably more towards the pedigree, and Bettor's Delight, the greatest stallion of all time, arguably in harness racing, and he's still kind of looking for that replacement. I know you guys had All Bets Off. He's done some pretty good things up in Canada, but did you look at any of the Best in Shows, or what did you think about him coming to Indiana?
No, pretty much after, the Tall Dark Stranger and everything, like struggled last year, I took a wait and see with Best in Show. Because, we haven't seen yet, being honest, I'm partial, but I think All Bets Off has been as good as a sire as he sired. But you know what? This year I have 4 really, really, really good Tall Dark Strangers. I don't think he's nearly as bad as he looked last year. Whatever, it didn't work out with the wrong mares, whatever, things didn't. But I have 4, I think, that are top, now they're all out of mares that made $1 million. So, it's not like he was bred to garbage and threw things, but I look for it. So, but Best of Show, I did think, you know what, you're going to have to prove it to me. I have no problem in admitting I'm wrong if they do good and jumping on the bandwagon late, but I'm not going till they prove it.
And we talked about Tall Dark Stranger, a lot like Green Shoe. The second crop maybe jumped out a little bit more. How many years are you willing to give a stallion? Maybe go back to the well a couple more times before you start to decide maybe this one's just not for me.
I got to check 6 this year. I'm still fighting for him. It's the only sire I've put out there that really didn't live up to my expectations. I think I got a good one. So, it's such a hard thing. Like, people get down so quick and people get high so quick. Somewhere it's always in between the truth. They're never as good as they look when they're going great. They're never as bad as they look usually, with a few exceptions. There have been some just train wrecks of sires, but I'll give them, like I said, I bought a couple of Tall Dark Strangers this year, and I was like, but I actually had the second and third best ones last year, so maybe they fit me. They do seem to be rugged horses that will take a lot of work.
And I will say, check six, maybe his first couple crops didn't live up to Sire Sticks horses, but you still see him pop up on the program. There's some decent overnight type horses, but check six came with a lot of pedigree. Dan Patch winner here at Hoosier Park. Like I said, maybe underwhelmed a little bit at Stallion, but again, still pops up with some decent race horses.
He ended up in Minnesota. That's all you need to say.
I was doing my best here, trying to sell you on check six, but we come back to the seventh. I want to talk about the one Ponda Sweet. I think this is the one you were talking a little bit earlier, where you've had to ask her a little bit here, but well-bred daughter of Swan for All out of a Muscle Hill mare. That's a cross people have been over in this, all over in this program for a number of years. Full sister to Ponda Jewel. We saw her sweep the Maya Tri-Series this spring. Looked very good. Haven't seen her pop up since then for Team Wren, but a good pedigree. She obviously looks the part for the price tag, but again, you may be just wondering how much more you can ask her in the spot.
It's funny. This is where we just don't get off the bus till we get home. This is a perfect crystal was another part of the elite trotting disaster. And we really thought she was going to be a good horse. She never pounded out. We sold it. These people, they bred her, and it's still a great family. There's somebody, a horse going to come out of this family and be great. So, this was Dr. J's pick. She loved her, thought it was the best looking filly. And obviously from the price, other people thought it too. But, it's funny. My crew loves this filly. I'm not sure yet, but usually they got a good opinion. And like I keep saying all the time, you sure you guys think this filly's that good? They're like, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So I'm hoping they're right, because I'm not totally sold yet, but she does everything right. I just don't know if I see 26 in a piece ever in her future, but hopefully I'm wrong.
So in the situation where it is going to be your first qualifier, what's the success for you in this spot? What's kind of, you start to believe what your crew's saying on this one?
As long as she's going forward at the wire, I'll be happy. As long as, horses aren't passing her and she's passing other ones, that's all I'm looking for. She's not trained super tight. I will say the other day, it was the best I thought she ever trained. I was like, I can see what they like about her. I just want to see one more click, and a little bit higher turn of speed. And, like I said, we've seen it before with the Swan for Alls of ours, that like they will get better the more you race them. So I'm hoping like that's one of these right here.
Yeah, and that was the situation with Hanover. I think she only had one start at 2, one you had to kind of wait on, and kind of each start at 3, you could see her getting better and better and better. Did you see the talent early with Hanover? Was that a surprise? I mean, obviously you guys waited on her, so you did see something in her.
Yeah, no, we thought she was a killer, and then she came here and things went wrong, and then we brought her back the next year, and Ricky did an incredible job. Like, I think, as your family's, mare was always better, and like we were getting closer and closer, and I knew like once we knocked the door down, we would be able to go with her. And once we were able to get her involved early, then we think, because before she'd be 15 lengths off top lane and just go incredible quarters. But like, yeah, she was a head case. She saw ghosts. She saw things that weren't there. This filly's got a way better head on her shoulder. I just haven't seen that 27, in there yet. So we'll see.
We also knew when Hanover knocked the door down, we were going to be in trouble, and we sure were from there on out. Her and Trita had some great battles, though, later on. A really cool rivalry there, but Hanover, absolute legend in this program. So Ponda Sweet, she's going to leave from the rail. The 2s make it spicy. Kyle Husted trains and drives. Daughter of Help is on the way. Out of a Muscle Hill mare. This one a half sister to 4 under par. A good one from the Rideout Barn that made $200,000. 3, I'm a Mess. Another daughter of Ivanhoe Blue Chip in this spot. 7th foal from an ABC Garland mare. A full sister to Great Unknown, who made $310,000. The $400 Holler. Wayne Miller in the bike here, another Ohio-bred son of Long Tom, first full from a Master Levesque mare. 5, a Special, Marcus Miller, Irv Miller, a Can't Afford It. Coming from a good mare, though, Lima Simplicity, she's thrown the likes of Somebody Special, Louise's Legacy of $500,000 earners there. The 6, 80s Cool, Daryl Bontrager trains and drives the son of Swan for All. This is going to be the second full from an Uncle Peter mare. And the 7, Bluebird Kazoom, Kevin Lambright in the bike here, a daughter of Swan for All. Going to be the second full from a Trixton. We'll send it out to Michael for any changes in the call of the 7th.
Just one driver change here. Number 680's Cool will be driven by Kyle Wilfong. Wilfong driving the 6, a field of 7, and they're moving around the turn. Horses are now in the stretch. Here they come. They are off. A good start for Ponda Sweet on the inside. In the center, it's I'm a Mess, $100 Holla. And then 80's Cool to the outside. Next is Make It Spicy with Especial, and Bluebird Kazoom is the early trailer. With the field going on to the first turn, $100 Holla has taken the lead. Ponda Sweet now second. I'm a Mess races next in third. And then Make It Spicy is fourth. 80's Cool is followed by Especial, and 2 lengths to Bluebird Kazoom, who is last of the 7 after a first quarter of 33-2. On the back stretch, it's a 2-length lead now for $100 Holla and Luane Miller. Honda Sweet is racing second, a length and a half. Next comes I'm a Mess, then Make It Spicy is fourth. Fifth is 80's Cool, Especial, and 4 more lengths to the trailer, Bluebird Kazoom. Field is now approaching the half-mile mark, and leading the way is $100 Holla through a half of 104. $100 Holla with the lead, 2 lengths. Ponda Sweet second by 2. Then I'm a Mess, Make It Spicy is racing fourth. 80's Cool, then followed by Especial, and Bluebird Kazoom remains the trailer as they're midway around that second turn. And it is still $100 Holla, $100 Holla. Ponda Sweet is their second. I'm a Mess third as they arrive at the top of the stretch. 3 quarters, 134-4, a 30-4 third quarter, and off stride. Off stride, $100 Holla right there at the top of the stretch, and that gives Ponda Sweet the lead. Ponda Sweet is now in front, coming to the final 1/8 of a mile. Next to the outside is Make It Spicy, and then advancing also 80's Cool. Ponda Sweet in front, a length and a half, coming down to the finish. Make It Spicy second, 80's Cool third, and I'm a Mess finishes fourth. The time for the mile, 2:04-2.
All right, so there it is. Ponda Sweet. She's going to cross the wire first, 2:04-2. Inherited the lead after the $400 Holler jumped it off, turning for home. But I think a pretty happy trainer sitting right next to me.
Yeah, no, that's probably last 3 quarters, 130. That's a good, into the wind under no urging. I was very impressed. Good gated, which I knew she was, but I thought she was a little more willing even than I thought she would be. Looked like she reacted well to the being in a full field, so I'm very pleased. I just didn't want to go home depressed, and that'll keep me off the depressed list.
There we go. That's a first box check there with Ponda Sweet. You could tell that was a field of trotters that were making their first qualifier. Every one of them were making their first qualifier because you looked over me when they were leaving the gate and said they are going slow, and that was the case. Very, very cautious early, but from there on out, they kind of picked things up.
Yeah, no, they looked like they were going through molasses here through this first, few steps. But then they did pick it up, and then like a couple of them had, like if you watched it, the horse closing a little bit at alert late trot. That's a good experience. Kudos to all them guys that all them colts got good experience. Phillies got good experiences. So I was impressed. I was very happy.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when the leader jumped it off in front of you around the last turn, did you want to be racing off the helmet turning for home, or did you not mind seeing her on the engine turning?
Nah, I would have rather that. First of all, I don't want to see anybody's colt break, especially in qualifiers. Like I like everybody to do good, especially somebody that cuts the mile for you. It's a little bit harder, and so everybody can't trip them all out. So I felt bad, but I would like to see him, if maybe he would have hooked up with her, would she have dug harder? So, but I'm very pleased. It was a good effort. Trace, nice job. good, steady. Just it was a nice job. I'm very pleased.
And finishing second to her was the 2 Make It Spicy from that Houston barn again. Let's say well-bred daughter of Help is on the way out of that Muscle Hill mare, Saucy. 5th full from the mare, sister to 4 under par, who made over $200,000. So very encouraging there as well on the 2 Make It Spicy, making her qualifying debut from that Houston barn. She also looks to be dual eligible. She was entered to go down in that Kentucky Proud down at Oak Grove before they opted to come here for her first qualifier. Speaking of dual eligibility, I know we talked about that Kentucky program quite a bit. If you have one that's dual eligible, how do you kind of find the balance about where you're going to send them and where?
Probably in Indiana, most of the time we would stay here. It's a good spot. The money's good. You don't have to travel and you don't have to race everybody else. PA, if you're looking for a horse to stretch on a big track, we have a colt named U Brute. It's a tall dog stranger, first full out of Warrior U Butte. We're kicking around, not even racing him anywhere but Kentucky, just because he's big and I think he could do special things down there. He's like kind of built for a mile track, and I'm not for sure I'm not going to race him all in PA, but I'm leaning to going straight to Kentucky, and I think he'll do some pretty neat stuff.
First of all, from Warrior U Butte, she was pretty big, if I recall correctly, if I'm remembering that right. Obviously, a world champion at 2. How excited do you get having one from her?
Yeah, no, this is her first foal, and it was disputed. Like, he was so big, there was some of the camp that didn't want him, and I basically was torn on the fence. And then I was watching him in the ring right before he went in. He was on the pace the whole time, and I'm thinking, well, he's not uncoordinated. I don't care. I'm buying this thing, and he has done some special things training. Like, he's the one colt maybe this year that I go, I don't know if any of the rest of them could do that. The other day, 26, 56, ear hood on, Yannick, never asking him. I was impressed. I think that mare's going to throw great horses. She was a great horse, and same as her. This thing, you can't be pushing the go button all the time because they like to go and go all the time. So we've had to be a little bit quiet with him, but there are times like he'll be so far back in a training mount, and then you look up and he's on the front, and you're like, huh, that's not possible. And that's when you know that maybe they're better, when they do things that you're trying to figure out the fractions in your head and go, I don't think that's possible, but obviously they did it.
8th race horses starting to come out on the track. This is going to be a baby race for the paces. We've got our first paces. I know, Ron, you said you had one scratch. Is this going to be the scratch here at the 6th Boomski?
Yeah, he he came in this morning and his knee was a little swollen. I don't know if he bumped it the other day training. And this is where I've learned. Years past, I probably would have went with him. Then it'd have been even more swollen, and I called, Adam, and I said, let's just take him out. Let's take him, put him in the ice. And what's one more week or 2 more weeks and do it the right way. And I like this colt. Do I think he's a killer? No, but I think he is a good colt, and I think he'll be a great 3 and 4-year-old. He's big, he's strong, and that's why I said I'm hoping I don't make the same stupid mistakes I did. There's some horses here like this. Charisma Hanover was one of my favorites, the 5, and 26 flat first start. Like, they're going to go some in here. Like, I didn't really want him to be chasing and banging a knee, so now I can just cheer and hope the down by the seaside out of Charisma is a good, good baby.
Yeah, I was going to ask what you remember about Charisma Hanover. I know you won the Lady Maud with her. I think the American National as well. Very good earner, over $800,000. One of a number of good, great race mares from the Burke barn.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't buy this baby. I'm going to have to put that on Dr. J. She must have screwed up or something, because this thing looked good first time. So, I don't know. But all kidding aside, she hasn't really produced like I thought she would. And so it'd be nice to see her actually throw a good baby, because she deserves it. That was a very, very good one. And, when he goes by, the colt looks like a good colt too. So,
yeah, send it down by the seaside there. She has had Calico Jack Hanover. He's approaching $250,000 as a 50 mark. But again, that's going to be Kailu Hanover leading from post 5. We've got a couple down by the seaside. You talked about him earlier. What a game changer he was in Ohio. You've had a number of those down by the seasides go on and do great things on the Grand Circuit as well. Obviously, the Sea Silk, Seaside Diva, and so many others. What an impact he's had on the Buckeye State.
Yeah, I think he can, you can take a seaside and go anywhere. They're great horses. I'm hoping Summa Cum Laude, one of our studs, puts a dent into him in Ohio this year. The early results look good, but that is definitely the king of the hill. Until somebody knocks him off, he is king for sure.
And that's going to be who leads us out on track. The one Deep Satin from the Mike McAuliffe barn, a daughter of Down by the Seaside, second foal from a Dragon Again mare that made $87,000. The two, Cruisin' Hallie, Kyle Wolfong driving for Brittany Dillon. This one, a full sister to Buzzsaw Russ, over $700,000 there. Of course, favored in the Dan Patch a year ago, finished second behind Duncan. The three, Chattahoochee, Jordan Ross, Ryan Miller, a stun of Lather Up out of a Mr. Big Mare that made $170,000. Lather Up, incredibly high-speed individual. Have you had much with him over in Ohio?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to really fit us. Like, I'd like my horses to be a little bit more like pure gated. Like, he's very high speed horses, but like I always worried that even here he struggled through the turns, and we got to go so many turns in Ohio, but they do have speed, and like some people have really done well with them. But like I said, I tend to stick to what I do best, and like the Seasides have been great to me. So till I assume I'm going to give a shot because it's my stud, and then he's just some beach line's the best line going. Now maybe lose, but he has been the sire of sires.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I think you guys sent Luce Perlman over to Ohio last year. How's the interest been for him in Ohio?
He's done great. He's two full mares. He won the jug. People remember that. Like, great family. My girl EJ's full brother. It's and the colt this year, Generational Wealth, is another one that I think is special. Like, we have one last full brother out of that mare, and I think this one's I don't know if he's as good as them two, but he may be too.
We come back. We've got the four, Can't Touch Me there. John DeLong, Roger Welch. This one, a full brother to that Sire Stakes champion, Can't Touch Thee. She's made $300,000. Tasted defeat for the first time this year, last week in Sire Stakes, but a good, strong filly there from the Welch barn. And this one, a full brother to her, out of a great mare too. Can't Touch This. She won the American National, made over $400,000. Great pedigree. The DeLongs just have a long line of good mares that they continue to breed here in Indiana. We talked about the 5, Kailu Hanover. The 6, Boomski will be out here. The 7, Be Fearless, a daughter of Rock and Image out of a well-fed mare. This one actually a half-sister to Book the Fight. We see him in Indiana Sire Stakes out of that Perry Smith barn. So you got to like that combination. And the 8, Captain Speed. That's going to be Captain Midnight out of the mare Gate Speed, a Rock and Image mare that made $100,000. Third full there as they are lined up behind the gate, and we'll send things up to Michael.
Yeah, Perry was one of the first people I ever worked for. Like, when we were kids, we used to paddock for him at the Meadows. Very sharp guy, like very sharp.
Absolutely, and we'll keep an eye on the 7, Be Fearless again. Good pedigree there. The half sister to Book the Fight. So send it up to Michael for any changes we might have for this age.
There are 2 scratches in the 8th qualifier. Scratch number 2, Cruisin' Hallie, and scratch number 6, Boomski. Number 8, Captain Speed. The driver is Vern Fisher. And it appears that the field is now moving into the stretch. Here they come. They are off. Moving up for the lead is Be Fearless. Caillou Hanover is next to the inside. Then Deep Satin racing third. Captain Speed is up on the outside fourth. Chattahoochee and Can't Touch Me there, the last 2, with the field now moving on to turn number 1. And in position number 1 is Caillou Hanover. Caillou Hanover will take them to the quarter-mile mark, passing there in 32 seconds. Caillou Hanover with the advantage. Second is Be Fearless. Then a length and 3/4 to Deep Satin, who is third. 2 more back to Chattahoochee. Can't Touch Me there is fifth. And 8 lengths back to Captain Speed. As they continue up the backstretch, they're at the midway point of the backstretch. And Caillou Hanover is in front. Caillou Hanover a length better than Be Fearless. Deep Satin third through a half mile of 1:02. 30 seconds for the second quarter for Caillou Hanover. Caillou Hanover in front, that lead a length and a half. Second, Be Fearless. And then third is Deep Satin. Chattahoochee is next. Can't Touch Me there fifth. And 10 back to the trailer, Captain Speed. Midway around that second turn, and Caillou Hanover trying to take them all the way. Still in front just over a length. Be Fearless trying to get closer second. Deep Satin third. 3/4 131, a 29 second quarter. So the pace has picked up each quarter so far, and Caillou Hanover is in front. To the outside is Deep Satin being urged along by Mike McAuliffe, and then Be Fearless is third. Caillou Hanover, Deep Satin is the only threat to the leader here in deep stretch. Caillou Hanover is still there a length and a half, and Caillou Hanover does win. Deep Satin was second, Be Fearless, and then Chattahoochee in 158-1.
Ohio looks to have a couple good ones on the way as the Down by the Seaside is going to go 1-2. Caillou Hanover winning 158-1, 27-1 at the end of it. But again, with this headwind, that's a much better last quarter than 27-1, and really not a whole lot of urging from Atlee Bender on the way down the stretch.
Yeah, and honestly, the one might even have been as impressive. That's first start for that filly. Spring Station. That's Josh Green and Eric Good. They do a great job, and I think it actually made up ground into that last quarter. She might have gone to sub 27. That was they were impressive. Those are going to be horses that are going to be a factor in Ohio. Those were both very impressive.
Yeah, in Ohio, I know the Sire Stakes program over there, it's really boomed the last couple of years. You've had so many great horses from Ohio. Of course, By the Missile, one of them. And again, the horses I mentioned earlier, Sea Silk, Seaside Diva, and so many others. But they kind of were next in line right behind Indiana. When Indiana took off, then came Ohio just a couple of years behind it. And they really had the infrastructure in place, though. They've always had very good mares in Ohio, and they were ready to take advantage when the money came their way.
I don't know if anybody truly is inbred into the fabric of the community as much as Ohio. Everybody has a mare in their backyard. Everybody goes to the races. It really is fun to race there. People appreciate it. I really do. I love going to Ohio. I love racing there. They're great tracks. They're great, especially Scioto did a great job. They built a place where you can see every spot on the track from the grandstand. And it's fun to race when people show up. You like to race in front of other people.
Yeah, and so much so that they're going to host the Breeders' Crown next fall. We look forward to that. Wishing our friends over at Scioto all the best, Jen Ottenberry, Vic Roy, as that's going to be a cool place to see that place host the Breeders' Crown. Hope they get a little better weather than we tend to when we get the Breeders' Crown here at Hoosier.
Yeah, but you guys have done a great job. Somehow we've managed to pull it off here. It'd be still fun, and we have a great time. But we have really got some crap weather here the few times we did it. But, I'm hoping for them. They got an open-air grandstand. But you know what? People go sit in a Ohio State game, wear a jacket. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. So we look forward to that next fall. I believe the Breeders' Crown this fall, I believe at the Meadowlands this year again?
No, Woodbine.
Woodbine.
Yeah, we go back to Woodbine. And then I'm hoping, one of these days, it's always rumored, but let's get it done. Red Mile. There would be nothing better. Just stay there after the, Grand Circuit meet and roll right into it. I think it would be like the best experience for the horses and the people.
I love going down to the Red Mile. I used to go down all the time with my grandparents on Futurity weekend. I stopped going for a couple of years when I started working here, but then I went when Bulldog went down there a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, got beat. But that is the most knowledgeable fan base. When you go down to the Red Mile, they cheer for a horse. They show their respect at the end of the mile. One of the coolest places you can ever go, especially those Grand Circuit weekends.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. You can reach out and touch them as they go by. You can feel them coming down the stretch. It's a great place. I would just like to see it, to see what it would be like to have the Breeders' Crown there, but the places that do it, Woodbine, great. This place, incredible. Meadowlands, I've always said, to me, still the mecca of harness racing. Wins at the Meadowlands, I always feel like should count for two, because you feel that much better, so it's a big thing when you take the Breeders' Crown. You're going up against things, but I think Scioto's going to crush it. They'll knock it out of the park, and you'll get a lot of people show up, and I don't care how bad the weather is.
Absolutely. We look forward to that. Again, I think we've got our second break taking place, and then we're going to come rolling back. We've got more 2-year-old action. We had 14 qualifiers total this morning. I believe about 10 of them were for 2-year-olds. It's been a little bit more than we've had in the recent weeks, but this is kind of crunch time. This is when everyone wants to get ready. Those first 2-year-old sire stakes are going to kick off in mid-July, so everyone wants to be about ready maybe a month early before those first leg of sire stakes to get a couple qualifiers under your belt, maybe a start or two par mutually. But this is kind of the time where you start to see the good ones making their first appearances.
Yeah, most people are there. You're going to usually start with your better ones too, though. Like, you don't want to go out and like, oh, watch this. My first ones look like crap. So, but I think the weather was hard this year. Like, people weren't able to follow schedule maybe as good as they had in years past. I know at least we couldn't. We'll train about through anything. We'll train through a hurricane, but you just can't go fast when the track won't let you go fast. So, I don't think, I think you're going to see maybe bigger improvements on all horses their second or third time now than maybe before. You're not going to see horses coming out with the blazing first qualifier maybe in years past. So, look for horses to improve more this year, I think, than years past.
Yeah, and we saw that weather just impact our season as a whole to start the year because the winter was so rough around here. Even the overnight horses just weren't quite ready to go when we opened up in mid-March, so we were pretty light at the entry box, and just a winter that kind of wreaked havoc everywhere, not just with the 2-year-olds, but overnight horses too, because it has been wet, it has been cold, and finally just now getting the summertime.
Yeah, no, it was a tough go, and the last couple of weeks we've got a lot of rain, and that's the thing is you can get your work in, you just can't get your speed miles in because you feel awful dumb if you break one down training in a track where you shouldn't be going fast, So that's why I said I think you're going to see horses maybe make more improvement with every start than years past, where some of ours in years past were push button ready the first time they went to the gate.
So we continue to roll on with the qualifier action. Again, we've got a break here, allowing for some qualifiers. We talked a little bit about Blueprint, MM's Dream. What do you got coming down the road? I know still in search of that Hamiltonian. Any good 3-year-old trotting colts? We talked about the Indiana breds on to Norway, Starlet Frankenstein. On the national level, what are you kind of looking at there?
I have a colt that won the Jersey Sire Stake Hidalgo that they give a lot of money for. That's a very, very good horse. I have kind of a sleeper that people don't know. He was second last night in his only second lifetime start. He's been second both times. His name's Java Jukebox. I really think it's the best trotter I have. He had some problems training down as a 2-year-old. We had to do a completely different than we're used to. I'm going to race him every other week to the Hambo, but he's got that ability. He's out of Handover Bell, a mare that I trained at the end of her career that went in 51. And I think he's special. And it's I want to win it. I'm not going to, it's not going to end in my life if I ever did win it. I did win it. I won it for 10 minutes. They just took it away. What the hell won it? I had the thrill of victory. I know what it feels like to win a Hambo. I just also know what it feels like to unwin the Hambo.
Speaking of what the hill, we've seen a couple of Ohio breds out here. He's been in Ohio the last couple of years. How's he been kind of taken to the Stallion life? What's he produced over there?
You know what? He's had some good, but he's never done as well as I thought he would. And maybe he should have been moved to a different thing. He was a big track horse, and there's not a lot of big tracks over there. But, he definitely got better with every start, and I think you see it with some of his babies that, but maybe over there they improve too late, and by the time it comes, the money's already won. But he's been good, but not as good as I really thought. I thought he would dominate Ohio, and I'm not sure, being honest, that Long Tom's not a better sire, and I didn't think I would ever say that.
And speaking of Ohio, we talked about him a little bit earlier. By the Missile, how's he coming along? I know it's been a little start and stop the last couple of years. We got to see him last fall in the Hoosier Park Pacing Derby from post 9. One of the best miles I saw all year behind Little Rocket Man. But again, I know it's been a little start and stop for him the last couple of years. How's he coming along?
Yeah, last year was a disaster. Just like anything could go wrong, went wrong. This year we started out like, I thought was all right. Then he was really good. And then the last start, for the first time ever, I thought he mailed one in. Like, he just wasn't interested from the minute the gate went. So again, back to the drawing board with him. I have a vet, Dr. Keith Brown, that I think the world of. Took him there, complete go over, and he's convinced that it's his feet. He's not a lame horse. He doesn't. He's like, I'm just telling you, work on his feet. Do different things with it. Try this, try that. And I did train him the other day. He was out of his harness. It was as good as he's trained in 2 years. And Scioto today, that's why as soon as I leave here, I'm going to hustle to Scioto, because normally I wouldn't worry about overnight, but with him, I want to see improvement. I want to be there, and I'm going to go and race him myself.
We look forward to that tonight at Scioto Downs to see By the Missile in action. Of course, that incredible 3-year-old year parlayed into a great 4-year-old year. And again, just an absolute rock star when he is at his best. How do you kind of handle that as a trainer when you have a good one that's just having some issues that you can't get to the bottom of? That'll drive a trainer nuts, make you want to pull your hair out. How do you kind of deal with those types of horses?
You know what? Like, I think it's one of the things we do best. Our ability to resurrect our older horses. We've done it at times. You just never give up. You got to realize you got to look at it like a new horse sometimes and say, this ain't the horse it was before. Should we be doing something different? Should we trade something else with him? And even the other day, like one of the part owners said, maybe you think this is it. He's just burnt. And I was like, no, like this horse has still got it. Like we just have to figure out why he's not as good as he was. And, he showed flashes this year. And like I said, the early results from going to Dr. Brown's, working on his feet, different way, different shoe, I was really impressed with him the other day. I thought that's, the first time. And maybe, too, I was a little more aggressive training. And maybe I've gotten too soft on him. I looked at him the other day, too. He looks like a butterball. He probably needs to drop 100, and, you feel bad because he's made you $2 million, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? I ain't seen no fat, fast guys. So, buddy, you got to lose some weight. Dinner time, shut off or missile.
Well, I can feel him on that one, so I'm not going to hold that against him. But again, I think that's something, too. When you think of the Ron Burke barn, you think a lot of horses with longevity. I know, obviously, Foiled, again, all bets off. But even This Is the Plan was so good for so long. Is that something you guys take a lot of pride in, the fact that you can keep a horse good and keep him good for a really long time?
Yeah, no, it's not just them guys. It's horses like Birthday of Tokyo, horses that maybe people don't think of, but we think of, that, they're open horses. Later dudes is 8 years old and still just banging it out at Oak Grove. We do like that. We take good care of them. We do what's best for the horse. And usually if you take care of them and do what's best they'll do what's best for you, Plan, we're getting like this might be the last year because I'm never going to put Plan in a claimer. I mean, he's done $3 million. He's been great for us. And our racehorses, as long as they're not embarrassing themselves or costing us money, because they've been a long time, to be retired. And I think most of the horses, they enjoy the work. They enjoy the, going out. What are you going to do? Once they're done this, you either got to put them out in the field where they don't get to, or you got to give them up. And it's hard for us to give up, like Plan or Foiled or stuff like that. Thank God for Foiled. There's enough people want to see him, or we could take him places and he can be engaged that way, and plus pretty much wherever my family goes, he now ships wherever. He's like a, I don't know, lap dog or something these days.
Yeah, I know we got the same as part of that retirement tour when you guys were going around, and you could tell he was very well taken care of, just a happy horse out there, even in his 14-year-old campaign. Foiled, again, he's one of those horses for a while. It just seemed like he got better with age. I know for a number of years he was so good in the Levy series over at Yonkers. That'd be where he'd make a lot of his killing. But then, obviously, 6, 7, 8 years old, he really took his games elsewhere. Had that great year, race against Captain Treacherous and so on. So Foiled, again, you look back on that and his career, and how do you kind of take that all in?
He was the most different horse we had. We've had way more talented horses than he was, but he did two things that no other horse I've ever had. It did not matter what the trip was the week before. If he got parked, if he got, whatever, he forgot it immediately as soon as his, race was over. His ability to recover after extreme efforts was unmatched. And then the other thing is, once he laid on you, once he got head to head with you, I don't know, he made other horses give up. Like they just knew, nah, he's going to keep coming.
And we ask you about questions, the Foil again, it's the Hannah or Hanovers, but you just talked about a horse like Later Dudes. Maybe some of those horses, the unsung horses in the Burke barn. Do you have some of those overnight, open level horses that, again, they're not the Grand Circuit stars, but definitely have that kind of soft spot in your heart?
Oh, no, especially that horse. He's crazy. He has to be backed in his stall. You're 50-50. You go out to jog him, he's going to run off. But the thing is, when you get inside, and he's good, he can put up wild fractions, and he is not letting anybody by. And if you don't get him by the 16th pole, you're not getting him. So I like him. He's a cool horse. He's a sweet Lou. He's one of the first, crop, but high speed, I do. I like the horse. Like we've talked about putting him in a claimer before, and we all go, nah, we'll just keep racing him. We like him, so he's probably going to be a home for life or two.
You guys have one here at Hoosier that races week to week, American Classic. He's not a very big horse, but when he gets loose on the lead, he can be dangerous because he's another one that can lay down some wicked fractions out there.
It's funny. Last night I warmed him up. I said, this is one of the most annoying horses I've ever been around. His head is constantly just jerking, trying to get the bit out of your hands because he wants to just go fast, But the thing is, when you can get him in the right spot and you can let him roll along and he doesn't get to the half, you don't want to see 53, but 54, you're fine. Then you're getting 121, and then 48's not out of the question. Like, he is a cool horse, but I will say, thank God Adam trains him. What an annoying little horse.
We do see our ninth race paces starting to make their way onto the track. Some really nice pedigrees in the spot. I'll start with the one Rocking JK. Mike McAuliffe trains and drives this, a son of JK and Venera. First foal from a Rockin' Image mare that made $40,000. JK and Venera, you talked about him. You trained him as a 2- and 3-year-old, won the Pepsi North America Cup with him, and now you've gone back to the well quite a few times with him as a stallion. Noblesville won the Sire Stakes final last year. What's been your impressions of him as a stallion?
He's very nice. This looks like the JK End of Era Cuppers. I think 5 of the 8 are JK End of Eras. Good sire, 3 lungs, never got tired, and that's what he produces too. Great spot. They put him in here, fits here. I don't think he would have been a great sire if horses were all racing on half miles. They're big, strong horses, and they need to be able to stretch out. I'm excited. This is a good little group here, and we have a Tell It Like It Is, homebred of Perry's. Poppy Rob, that looks like Irv probably stole 22,000 only, and the Captain Midnight. This is going to be an interesting race. A lot of good sires, a lot of good trainers.
Yeah, we'll keep working our way down. We've got the 2 Peachy Girl. That's the second foal from this Peach Rock. She was an Indiana Sire Stakes performer, made $120,000. A full sister to this JK Rock. She's racing in the 3-year-old Sire Stakes for the Irv Miller Barn. The 3 Midnight's Wish, Trace Dietrich, Mike Arnold. This a daughter from that second crop of Captain Midnight, but out of a great mare, Play for Pay. She one of the first couple really good Tell It Like It Is. She made over $300,000, took a mark of 49 and change for trainer Michael Arnold, and he's got the first foal from her. The 4 Micromanage, another JK and Venera. This the second foal from Voomer Bang. She made over $400,000 for the Welch and DeLong combination. 5 Lady Panera, Poppy Rob Hanover out of a Better's Delight mare. Second foal from that Better's Delight mare. The 6 JK's Time to Shine, another JK and Venera. This is going to be the 4th foal. This one a half sister to the likes of Tells Victory, who we saw in action a couple nights ago here at Hoosier. He's made over $50,000. 7, I'm a Real Dapper Dude. This mare's just continued to produce. This is the 7th foal from that Real Desire mare. She's also had I'm a Real Ladies Man, made over $400,000. I'm a Real Rockin' Bugatti. And then the 8, Divine JK, another one of those JK and End of an Era. This is a first foal from an Art Speak mare. So a lot to like here in this 9th as they're starting to make their way to the starting gate. We'll send it out to Michael for any changes for this 9th qualifier.
The lone change here, a scratch of number 7, I'm a Real Dapper Dude. The 7 is out of this 9th qualifier this morning. The field is now on the second turn. Field now in the stretch. And here they come. They are off. At the inside, Rocking JK starts well. Peachy Girl is next. Then Lady Panera moving up into 3rd with Midnight's Wish 4th. Micromanage is 5th, followed by JK's Time to Shine and Divine JK. is last as the 7 move on to turn number 1. And leading the way is Rocking JK. Rocking JK in front by a length from Peachy Girl, who is sitting second. Next in third, Lady Panera, with the opening quarter up in 31 seconds. 2 lengths behind Lady Panera comes Midnight's Wish. Micromanage is next in fifth. Then a gap of 4 off to the trailing 2, JK's Time to Shine and Divine JK. They move up the backstretch. Rocking JK in front by a length. Peachy Girl is second. And Lady Panera moving along in third. Then after that is Midnight's Wish with Micromanage and JK's Time to Shine and Divine JK. The field really tightened up there just before the half-mile pole. And that opening half was 102, a second successive 31-second quarter. And they're moving on to the turn with Rocking JK in front. Has it a length and a half. Second is Peachy Girl. And then third, Lady Panera on the outside. Here comes Divine JK. Divine JK up into third and about to take second. Next comes Midnight's Wish. And then it's 2.5 back of that to Micromanage and JK's Time to Shine. Field entering the stretch, 3/4, 132. That a 30-second third quarter. And Rocking JK, Divine JK on the outside with Lady Panera to the inside. And also there, Peachy Girl. It is Rocking JK, Divine JK, Peachy Girl between the pair. Lady Panera trying to rally up the inside. Here comes Divine JK on the outside. And Divine JK goes last to first to win. Rocking JK, then Lady Panera and Peachy Girl, 2 minutes flat.
Divine JK, as Michael Chamberlain said, going to go from last to first for trainer driver Aaron Stutzman. And this has become a recurring theme over the last couple of years. When Aaron Stutzman drops one in the box, they're usually ready to go. And that's certainly the case for Divine JK. So there's JK and Aaron is going to go 1, 2, 3 in this spot. A big last half. Again, they got home in 28 flat. Doesn't really tell the whole story with the wind we've got here this morning.
Yeah, that was impressive. That was one of the better miles today. He came for a long way back. Long continued move. It was good. The other horse that I think was sneaky good, 5, Atlee, don't look like he moved off anybody's back, didn't have room, finished, looked like he was loaded. So maybe look for that horse to be really good the next time.
Yeah, that's one of those Poppy Rob Hanovers and looks like Kentucky bred. So going to be dual eligible there for the daughter of Poppy Rob Hanover. But Divine JK, again, going from last to first. Aaron Stutzman, again, a lot of success in the last couple of years. He had Soaring Now a couple of years ago, won the Genesis Beach Boy. I know we saw him up in North America Cup night. I think won an Open up there. And then he also had Sabonis last year, who just absolutely torched much of Indiana Cyrus Stakes over the course of last year. Proved he could go with pretty much anyone when he won the Milstein. Did get beaten out to $250,000 super final, but nonetheless, just a huge year from Sabonis. So Aaron Stutzman, a young up-and-coming guy, 39 years old, but a new barn, a small barn, but he gets a lot out of him.
Yeah, no, Sabonis was amazing last year. Like, there were times when I didn't even know he should be going to the gate, and then he would just run off and win by 6. So really impressed, and we actually beat him in the final, so I was all right with that.
Yeah, you got him at the right time in that $250,000 final with Noblesville. Can talk a little bit about Noblesville. It was kind of an up and down year for him last year. Got off to a good start, maybe tailed off a little bit in the summer, but he got good at the end of last year, and he's been pretty rock solid this year going against a tough company.
Yeah, no, it was actually really became a disaster in the middle of the year, going the wrong way. We took him back home, we reset him, and then he got good, and then he finished the year really good. And this year, he's become a consistent racehorse. Those are good horses, and he's got a race in the Open a lot of times as a 4-year-old. When he drops below the Open, he can handle them. But those are really good horses. But I look for him next year to really be a good 5-year-old. So I just want to get through this year, make as much as we can, give him one more break, and I think you'll get one more step up from him because he's a big, strong, good-looking horse, and that's a homebred. So that's one of our favorites.
I know, speaking of North America Cup night, I also want to talk a little bit about Brew Hanover. That's one of those you guys sent up to Canada. He's been an absolute monster up there. I believe him and Irvin Hanover went 1-2 up in the Kamloops Classic at Western Fair. But maybe a diamond in the rough situation there. I think he's won 11 of 14 this year, been absolutely vicious.
He's been good at points before, but David, I got to give him credit. He has got him where he's consistently good. And now he seems to have a little more fight to him. David's done a great job with him. He'll probably stay with David for, the near future at least, and I'm very impressed with him. He's, going to finish up. Like, we're even talking about supplementing him to a couple big ones. And, as long as he keeps going good, he's been very good. And, David's done a great job. Good job by him.
Yeah, that field he beat in that Mohawk Gold Cup, that was the real deal. And you talked about Noblesville racing in the Opens here. That Open has been coming up maybe a little bit deeper than it has in recent years. We had Little Rocket Man win it last night. You had Ponda Warrior second. Lowrider's been rock solid from the Walter Haynes Jr. barn. So that Open pretty salty right now here at Hoosier.
Yeah, Little Rocket Man seems like he's one step above the rest of us for sure, or multiple steps above the rest of us. They beat him a couple weeks ago, but I think that was an aberration. It's going to be pretty hard. He can do what maybe all the rest of us have a chink in armor. That one, he can leave. He can sit on the outside. He can close. It's just a great horse. He is really, he's got like foiled again qualities to him too. Just gets better and better the older he gets.
Yeah, 9 years old, still going strong out of the Ken Rucker barn. You see the field for the 10th starting to make their way onto the track. And we're going to kick things off with a Sweet Lou. We've got the one Lions hooked up, a daughter of Sweet Lou out of a Sun Beach somewhere mare that made $180,000 in Sandy Hook, Hanover. And this one double qualified for Irv Miller. Really hasn't done anything wrong through the first two qualifiers, getting home in 26 and change, and both just what you want to see from a well-bred daughter of Sweet Lou.
Yeah, no, the lines look good, good finishing. Atlee, pretty, competent, and seems like he does the right thing with babies right off the bat. So, Ricky's filly or colt, that's a good quarter, 26 and 2. I think you'll see an improvement. This is a pretty stiff qualifier. You got the 54 Rocket Image of, Stutzman's, another 56, 26 with another Irvs. This is probably like the best qualifier of the day so far. This is going to be tough. You're going to see a good horse is going to be needed to win this one.
Yeah, Ricky McCumber Jr. has unveiled a couple really nice 2-year-olds over the course of the summer already. I know last weekend had a Rocket Image colt that just romped, and I think 55 and change. He looked like the real deal. And we know Ricky McCumber Jr. knows his way around a good horse. The 2, that's Queen Hayden, a daughter of Rocket Image. This one a half sister to Patchville, made over her $400,000 for the Welch DeLong combination, coming off a winning qualifier in 59 flat when she stayed flat after she went off stride behind the gate in qualifier number 1. The 3 is Bluebird Captain PJ. From that McCumber barn, again, this from that second crop of Captain Midnight. 4th full from a Rock and Roll Hanover mare. The 4, Check Your Pockets. That's one of these check 6s. Louis Miller's gone back to the well in this family. This is the 2nd full from a Better's Delight mare that made over $300,000. The 5, Dancing Dreamer. Aaron Stutzman trains and drives, and this one was an absolute monster back on June 7th. 154 and 4, home in 26 flat, won by over 12 lengths on that morning. Excited to see him come back for a second qualifier. The 6, JK, the great Marcus Miller, Irv Miller. This is a JK and an era that won his last qualifier in 156 and 4. This is the 2nd full from a Roll with Joe mare. And the 7, New Kim in Town. 14 Ren. This from that first crop of Highlater. Second qualifier for this one. Did get chased down at the very end last week, but still a good qualifier nonetheless, qualifying in 57 and 3. Anything kind of jump off the page in this first qualifier? Again, we talked about the 5, Dancing Dreamer, 154 and 4, first qualifier out of the box in early June. That's going to catch everyone's attention.
Yeah, no, this whole everyone in this qualifier looks like it did it the right way, their first one. So it's going to be this one. I'm interested. I want to see what goes here and like see who steps up here. Still wins. It isn't definitely hasn't laid down. So anybody that can pace a good last quarter into this, it's going to be legit. So yeah, like a Highlater. I think Highlater is he Indiana this year?
This first crap's
and
Indiana,
then he goes to Delaware.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see who does what here. This is going to be good. You got to watch and see who's more aggressive and maybe who's just trying to get them around there and good last quarters in them.
Yeah, and I think Highlater's going to be interesting. He was a very good open-level horse. Made a lot of money, very, very fast. Won a lot out east. Just one of those. I don't know if he necessarily connected very well with the Indiana audience, making his way here to Indiana. But I think going back to Delaware, probably a good call for him because obviously a lot of connections back in Delaware, a little bit more notable there.
Yeah, I think we actually bred something to him last year. I think we have a Highlater on the ground this year. And that's when we think of him, we thought more of Delaware. We didn't think Indiana. So, yeah, I probably fits better there.
We talked a little bit about Check Six earlier. Of course, won the Dan Patch here at Hoosier Park in 148 and change. He's one of those just kind of rock solid horses. Jumped up, win a couple big Grand Circuit events. Maybe never the best in the division, but again, just very, very consistent type.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I was very surprised that he didn't hit. Like, good gated, tried hard, but he did some have like little quirks, and like that he was able to put up with them. And I seen he passed it on to his horses, and I don't think they can put up with them like he did. So, you just got to, like, you never know. I tell people that all the time. That everybody thinks only the good passes down when you breed. No, the bad passes down too. You think, oh, if I had horse, I'd breed him because he was so fast, but he was lame. Lameness passes down. It's not just the good. And he had a little bit of a questionable attitude, but he never showed it in a race. But it was funny. Like, I've seen some of his babies with the stuff that he would do training, acting up and stuff. They do it then, and that's, you hope it doesn't happen. But when it does, you can't be totally surprised and say, I never saw that coming.
And I think that's kind of the thing here in Indiana. We've been looking for some beach somewhere stallion. Captain Midnight's the son of Captain Treacherous. And really, Captain Treacherous, the only some beach stallion that's really, really popped in the way that he has. So, and we get that a lot in Indiana. We've tried to get that Muscle Hill stallion a couple different times. We're hoping Rebuff's going to finally be the first one. But kind of in search for that next great some beach somewhere that just hasn't quite made its way to Indiana yet.
No, and sorry for the industry that he's the ill-fated some beach somewhere. Like, he was changing the game, and I don't know now. Like, kind of, if you don't have one, I don't think you're going to get one. They're all kind of locked up now, so you're going to have to hope for one of, like, son of captain, which, like, they could be good, but right now he's a one of one.
Yeah, we'll see one out of a Rock and Roll Hanover mare. I think a similar situation there where, again, he's taken a little bit too soon. And unfortunately, I know Rock and Roll haven't had a couple decent years out east, but never really got that next straight Rock and Roll Hanover stallion either. They are moving into line for this 10th qualifier. We'll send it out to Michael Chamberlain for the call of this one.
Field for qualifier 10 now on the second turn. There are no changes in the listed program here. Field now turning into the stretch. Here they come. They are up. Fairly even start. Lions hooked up down on the inside. Bluebird Captain PJ moving up. And then Dancing Dreamer. At the inside is Queen Hayden. Check your pockets. With JK the Great to the outside. And 3 lengths to New Kim in Town, who is 7th and last. On to the first turn they go. And up for the lead is Bluebird Captain PJ. Bluebird Captain PJ in front as they go by the quarter in 30 seconds. Lions hooked up is racing second. After that, third is Dancing Dreamer. Queen Hayden is next in fourth. Length and a half back to Check Your Pockets. JK the Great racing sixth. New Kim in Town is 7th and last. At the midway point of the backstretch, and it is Bluebird Captain PJ and Ricky McCumber Jr. with the lead. Pocketed second is Lions hooked up. And then right after that, third, Dancing Dreamer. They're at the half in 1 minute. Another 30-second quarter, pace consistent thus far. And there goes Lions hooked up from the pocket, moving up now to grab the lead. Also wide is Dancing Dreamer, and Dancing Dreamer moves up second. Now back to third is Bluebird Captain PJ as that top pair accelerates away. They are going very fast in front. Lions hooked up and Dancing Dreamer, they have left Bluebird Captain PJ 6 lengths back in third, and going off stride was Lions hooked up. Lions hooked up went off stride as the field now moves into the stretch. 3/4, 129 and 1. Off the turn, it's Dancing Dreamer, and Dancing Dreamer's in front by 5. Second is JK the Great, then Bluebird Captain PJ third, but it is Dancing Dreamer and Aaron Stutzman with the lead by 3. Coming to the finish, Dancing Dreamer is going to win it. Dancing Dreamer by about 4 at the end. JK the Great was second. Bluebird Captain PJ, and check your pockets, 156-1.
Dancing Dreamer going to make it 2 for 2 in qualifiers now for trainer driver Aaron Stutzman. Did this one a little bit different. They opted to go first up this week. Applied pressure to Lions hooked up. I know Michael Chamberlain said they were picking up the speed around the turn, maybe just a little bit too much speed for Lions hooked up, who jumped it off when applied pressure by the 5 Dancing Dreamer. But the plugs were out, a couple whip taps to keep him on his task, keep his mind on the task at hand. But Dancing Dreamer looked the part for a second straight qualifier.
Yeah, superbly gated horse, very efficient moving, really looked good. Ricky's horse was good, looked like maybe he got lost on the front. Marcus's horse, alert pace finishing, but, the star of the show was Dancing Dreamer, all the way to the wire, just accelerating.
In Rocket Image, we were talking about our open ranks. You got little Rocket Man, Pondo Warrior. They're both sons of Rocket Image. He's kind of maybe the little forgotten one sometimes now with Tilt, like it is in JK and of an era, but he's been incredibly consistent for a long, long time. You have CC Rock and Rosie, who's by him, just continues to produce rock solid racehorses.
Yeah, but the problem with him, if you statistically look at him, sometimes it's all or nothing with him. You either get the real good one or they aren't much. So it's hard to buy when, I'm a very big statistic guy. We look at things, the probability of making money, and sometimes it talks us out of the Rocket Images. I'd rather wait and just overpay for them when somebody else gets them going good, because when they are good, they're very good.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think a lot of times they always look the part. They always look like very good racehorses. You just never quite know how much heart's going to be in there. And you have one that's all heart. We were fortunate to have one in Pete, but they're very, very good. They'll pace through a brick wall. But when you have one that lacks a little bit of heart, they do not like to be looked in the eye.
No, and that's what I mean. I like that one. That's impressive. Like, the kid does a good job. He gets him ready. But that horse has the look of a good horse. Travels correctly, head low, doesn't look like he's wasting any motion, not fighting. And, coming back here nice and relaxed and just hopping around. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see a horse that looks like he's bugged out or anything. So good job by that guy. Good horse.
And I think that's what you're looking for in these first couple qualifiers. It's as much about professionalism as it is speed. They're doing the right things, not necessarily looking at the stopwatch for the entirety of this qualifier, as much as just making sure they're doing it right out there.
Yeah, that's there's a lot you can look, and usually most of them have the look of a good horse, but every once in a while they can fail you. But I do want to see the horses come back looking alert, not look tired or disgusted, or And that horse, he did. That horse, that didn't hurt him one bit. You could tell he's still fresh coming back. He looks great. That horse, at least in the first couple Sire Stakes, that's going to be a tough horse to get around.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we talked about this. Aaron Stutzman typically has them ready to go early in the season. Has a very good 3-year-old pacing filly as well. Similar story there. I'm spacing on her name right now. She made her first start this year, but she was very good last year as well. So Aaron Stutzman, kind of a small barn, making a big name for himself these last couple of years. And we look forward to seeing more from Dancing Dreamer down the road. We've got the 11th coming up next, 11 of 14. We are getting our money's worth out of Ron Burke this morning. I know I talked to him a little bit earlier and said, listen, if you got to take off a little bit early, I know you got a busy day ahead. You're totally fine. And he said, well, I'm in the 14th, so I'm kind of here all morning anyway.
Yeah, no, I would have probably been heading on the road because I've got Sire Stakes I want to watch at Poconos, but I'm not going to come all this way and not watch my filly live, so I'll stay, run it out with the rest of them.
I know I got to come back for 14 more races tonight. I still got to handicap that card. I'm sure Gabe's going to really hit the gas pedal tonight. We're going to be rolling through the Saturday night card to wrap up the week. So there were no concerns there. We're going to fly by, and we're getting ready to go to 5 days a week next week. So we look forward to that. And that's the cool thing about Hoosier Park is we give you guys opportunities to race if you got the horses for it. And it's kind of unique, the fact that we race 9 months out of the year. We start in March, go all the way through November. You don't have to have one ready to go right away, but we'll be here ready for you when you do have one ready.
And we now have stakes right up till, Thanksgiving. Those stakes at the end of the year, they're pretty nice purses. And, you get a horse that gets good at the end of the year, you can still pound on some money. And, it's actually nice, and it gives you a reason to come here all the way till the end.
Yeah, we have those handful of smaller stakes. We have the big nights too, like Monument Circle. Those are nice nights, but then those smaller $60,000 stakes, they kind of add like a nice continuation to Indiana Sire Stakes or even Ohio Sire Stakes. It turns into a lot of Indiana Ohio horses kind of coming together for those late fall stakes. You have one good in October for the big money when those Sire Stakes finals, and you just want to keep rolling from there.
Yeah, you know what? That brings a point. We should like have an Ohio versus Indiana championship. I think they used to do that Ohio and Michigan where they would race them. I think that would be cool. Like that'd be good. That'd be a tough race anymore. You took the four best from Ohio and four best from Indiana and raced them back and forth between the tracks. You might find out like it's even closer than we think.
I know that's something we were trying to get going a couple of years ago. Maybe we can get Gabe and Joe Zambito on the case, work with our friends over in Ohio, because very level programs, I would say, at the top end, at least from our Sire Stakes programs. And like you said, I think that would be pretty compelling stuff as we do see horses for the 11th making their way onto the racetrack. We're going to start it with another Perry Smith horse. This is a son of Tell Like It Is, Mocha Macchiato, fifth foal from a mare that made over $200,000 in JK Cameo. She's had a couple that made over $50,000 as well. The two, Mr. McBeevy, Marvin Luna, another Perry Smith horse. This one, a Lucky Anna Farm son of Rock and Image out of McKay Savard. She was a very good mare, made over $300,000, took a mark of 49-2. The three, Whiskey Rebellion, Christian Pacheco, Trent Stoller, a son of Odds On Coolius, the eighth foal from this rock and roll Hanover mare. She's produced the likes of Odds On Cheddar and Odds On Anubis. The four, Tocqueville Octavia, Lowain Miller trains and drives this daughter of Captain Midnight. Eighth foal from the Art Major mare, Our Sophia. She's thrown the likes of Topville Olympian, over $590,000. Five, Spanky McGee. We've got a Mike McAuliffe, son of Catch the Fire. Catch the Fire was a dam patch champion here at Hoosier Park. I know he's gone over to Ohio to do his breeding work. Is that a stallion you've had much experience with over there?
Yeah, and this is a great looking horse too. It's funny. He's one of the ones that catch your eyes out on the track there. Looks good. It's off to a good start this year too. Like first crop was nice, but looks like maybe they're going to even be better too. Like really looks good. But this is an eye-catching horse.
Interesting too, because he was a little bit on the smaller side, but obviously a very big motor. And this one out of a Tell It Like It Is mare, Indiana bred, Ohio Stallion, and Catch the Fire. The five, Spanky McGee, out of a dam that made over $30,000, took a mark of 51 and changed. The six, Rose Run Bristol, Marcus Miller, Mike Roth. One of these from that first crop. This is the first crop of Summa Cum Laude.
Yes, the first crop, and at home they've looked good. I'm anxious to watch this horse. Mike does a nice job. Usually does good job with babies, and hopefully we'll see a good effort out of this one here.
Yeah, and this is the eighth foal from a Jeremy Jet mare, Jet Wash. She made over $280,000. She's produced the likes of Jet Rock as well, over $370,000. Took a mark of 49 and changed to seven. Quick Return. We've got a son of Freaky Feet Pete out of a Western Spirit mare. This is the eighth foal. She's produced If I Lose, who's made over $200,000, as well as Shady Starlight, who's made over $220,000. And the eight, RB Rock and Rush, John DeLong, Miss Yeslick, another son of Rock and Image out of a Cam Luck mare. The mare made over $380,000, Western Lucky Cam. And this is going to be just a second foal from her. So again, speaking of Indiana, we've got a pretty nice mix, a couple Ohio breds here as well from Catch the Fire and Summa Cum Laude. You got kind of a wide array, Rock and Image, Tell It Like It Is. Odds On Aquileus, I think he's kind of interesting. I remember him as a racehorse chasing Captain Treacherous an awful lot. One of the coolest gated horses. I was hoping he'd have a lot of success here in Indiana. Didn't quite work out that way, but he's produced a couple really good ones. I don't know if he's one that you've had much experience with, but again, I thought he was a really cool racehorse. I was hoping he'd do really big things.
Yeah, we had a good filly by him that we bought off Brian Brown that was, I can't remember her name. I'm usually good at this, but nice filly. We ended up selling it back to Dana Parnham, and I think he might even be breeding her now. So this is good. This West Lucky Cam, the Dam of the Eight, was like a tough mare, very, very tough mare. I trained that mare at some point, and this is a good little race here. I'm like anxious to see what we got going here. Like these, Perry's got two nice looking babies. This could be all right. They're going to head to the gate here.
Yeah, starting to move into line, so we will hand things over to Michael Chamberlain for any changes before he gives us the call of the 11th.
A driver change on number 2, Mr. McBeevy. The driver is Jordan Ross. And scratch number 3, Whiskey Rebellion. So it is a field of 7 going gateward for the 11th qualifier this morning. Horses now turning into the stretch. Here they come. They are up. Stepping away well is Topville Octavia. Also up quickly, Spanky McGee. At the inside is Mocha Macchiato, and there's RB Rockin' Russ. As they go to the turn, it is Spanky McGee who has the lead. Next in second, Mocha Macchiato. RB Rockin' Russ is third, followed by Topville Octavia. And going wide now onto the turn was Quick Return. Quick Return is at the back end of the field through a first quarter of 33 seconds. So they're going to the back stretch, and it is Spanky McGee. Spanky McGee in front, that lead 2 lengths. Second is Mocha Macchiato, and RB Rockin' Russ is third. Next comes Topville Octavia. Then 2.5 further lengths away is Mr. McBeevy. Rose Run Bristol went off stride up the back stretch, and Quick Return is about 12 lengths behind the main body of the field at this point. They're at the half and pass there in 1:02 4/5. So they're going on to the turn, and it is still Spanky McGee who has the lead. That lead is now 3 lengths. Second is Mocha Macchiato. Another 2.5 back to RB Rockin' Russ as Spanky McGee is setting sail for the wire. Now has the lead by 6. Spanky McGee all alone in front. Mocha Macchiato is second. And then third is RB Rockin' Russ. They're in the stretch. And Spanky McGee is the leader. Spanky McGee has it by 6. Second is Mocha Macchiato and then RB Rockin' Russ. But it is all Spanky McGee in front. That big move on the turn's going to pay off with a victory here. Spanky McGee and Mike McAuliffe, most impressive in victory this morning. Mocha Macchiato is second, and getting up for third on the outside, Mr. McBeevy with Topville Octavia in 1:58 4.
So it will be Spanky McGee, the Ohio breds popping early on this morning. That's done from that second crop of Catch the Fire with trainer driver Mike McAuliffe. A big move around the last turn, kind of bottomed out the rest of these. I will say, I did think the second horse finisher, Mocha Macchiato, I thought he was still well in hand with Marvin Luna. I just maybe didn't want to go with Spanky McGee around the last turn, but I didn't think he extended himself overly much in this spot. As Spanky McGee, much the best this morning.
Yeah, no, good last half going into a wind, was really pacing on the turn going 1,000, looked really handy, like probably be good in Ohio, smaller tracks, so they got to be thrilled with that effort. I agree. The one had pace, even, but, it's hard when you get to half and 2 and 4 and they go to half mile and 58 4, the rest of them are not going to look as good as maybe as they are because you're coming such a big last half.
Yeah, it was going to be interesting when you're stretching that legs that much for the first time this morning. And you saw a couple just pretty green this morning. Again, they weren't going very much the first half, the first quarter, 33 flat. It's all about the last half for these baby qualifiers, making sure they finish the mile, pace through the wire. I think that's what every trainer is looking for in the spot. And that's what we got there with Spanky McGee in the 11th, that Ohio bred son of Catch the Fire. But looking at him coming back to the paddock. Again, I thought both Perry Smith horses were fine in that spot. Mocha Macchiato as well, the two. Mr. McBeevy, he had good speed at the end of it for John DeLong. They just let one get away from him. But again, Perry Smith, I've been impressed with what he's rolling out this morning.
Perry, good horseman, doing a good job and bringing these things ready, coming along. He knows how to point horses for big races. Has been racing when I was first growing up, Ladies Noble Knight, Darts Victor, Superstar Osborne. Perry was the king of the open pace at the Meadows, Fairmont Park, Canterbury Downs, Sportsman, so I don't think people remember how good he really was, and he was a factor with the upper class horses.
Yeah, one of the kind of the unsung guys, I think, here in Indiana, just rock solid year after year. Doesn't get all the credit and publicity, but he's just going to have a good year. You know that anytime he drops one in the box, they're usually going to be competitive. So I like to see him stepping out with the good youngsters in this spot. We come back with the 12th. We've got more pace in action. We're going to finish it with all paces here down the stretch. We've got a field of 7. All of these going to be making their first qualifier. So I expect pretty tepid things out of the gate like we've seen the past couple. That being said, we've got a couple pedigrees that really jump off the page, starting with the one Woggy, John DeLong, Alvin Miller, a son of Tell It Like It Is. Alvin Miller's so good with the sons of Tell It Like It Is. And here's another one, the 6th foal from Soggy Woggy, a Western Hanover mare, and this one a half-brother to the likes of Always Woggy, who made over $370,000. A good pedigree there. Alvin Miller, another one of those guys, just pretty unsung, doesn't get a whole lot of credit. Starting to get it now when you have a horse like Chandler Bing, MM's Bud, tell me about it, but just a rock solid guy that does a great job.
Yeah, no, it's done a good job for a long time too. This is a well-bred group. You got a Woggy and a Soggy and, a Skyway Shack. We got some different names here. Stay Hungry for Trent. That's Brad Grant. Actually Brad, who's the owner of Stay Hungry, so that should be interesting. These are good. The Shady Shark Hanovers, they're better than I think that they got credit for. He wasn't a horrible sire, and there was some good ones, and with Best of Show, we were talking about his first one that we have seen today. So, this is good. Jeff's is a $90,000 yearling, so I'm sure they really liked him. So I'm hoping that for their sake, it's a good one. So this will be an interesting race here too. Good race for the Indiana breds, with a little sprinkle of 1 PA, and, it should be interesting.
Yeah, and I think Shady Shark Hanover, like you said, one of those that just kind of fell victim to where there's not enough mares in Indiana to go around when horses like Rock and Image, JK, and Avenera Tell Like It Is, they're going to get the fair share of the good mares, and there's just not enough to go around for some horses like Shady Shark Hanover. But with what he had to work with, he really didn't do a bad job, and I think that's the case for a lot of stallions where, again, if you don't get a full book in your first couple crops, it's going to be uphill sledding from there on out.
Yeah, even like, one that I was familiar with, Fred and Ginger actually sired a nice horse and a beautiful horse, but, he was a real artist, which I don't think, endeared him to many people, but the good ones have been very good. We're racing one now for Howard that, is pretty nice filly, and, I really think he could have been a good sire, and he just never got a chance. So, but, that's how it is. Usually the cream will rise to the top, and you can't knock what JK and then there and Tell It Like It Is done. They produce every year, so we'll see what they do here. I could see this one of Jeff's being good.
And they again are starting to come on track. The 2 Talk Softly, that's an Irv Miller, JK, and Avenera. And I don't always be Mickey Mayer, the second foal from that mare. Stolen Kisses, this is a $17,000 yearling buy at Harrisburg. The 3 Soggy, we got Soggy and Woggy. Good luck, Michael Chamberlain in this spot. Trace Teacher, Jeff Culper again. A Son of Tell It Like It Is, out of an artistic fella mare that made up almost $250,000. Took a mark of 52-2. This is going to be the first foal from that mare from Stallion Tell It Like It Is. The 4 Skyway Shack is from Best in Show, out of a Sports Rider mare. This is the first foal from that Sports Rider mare. I recall an interview a couple of years ago. I don't think Sports Rider, not a biggest fan of Sports Rider, if I could recall properly.
Yeah, I don't think Casey's ever got over that. I didn't even mean it the way I said it. Well, somewhat I did, but he didn't fit us. He didn't. And since then, actually, I've had a couple decent ones, so maybe I should have bit my tongue. But it was when I said Southwood Henry. He was the first foal out of that mare that wasn't by Sports Fair. And I said, even if Always Be Mickey was the second worst sire in the world, it would still be better. And I didn't mean it as the way it came out, but whatever. I say dumb stuff all the time.
So again, this one going to be from that Mike McCall's barn. He's going to be driving, and from that first crop of Best in Show. This was a $40,000 yearling buy, and again, Best in Show received pretty tepidly at the sales last fall, but $40,000, that's going to be in the higher end there. So we look forward to Skyway Shack. The 5 Shady Shark 10. This is that son of Shady Shark Hanover out of a Net 10 EOM mare. That's all Indiana right there. A mare that made $65,000. The 6 Royal Richie Doyle, Mike Ushning, Tyler George. This is son of JK and Avenera, and Tyler George has had success with this family. This one, a half brother to General Dolan, knocking on the door $700,000 with a 48-4 clocking. Also, Longwood Lolly, a homebred for the Espositos in this spot. And then the 7 Playboy, Marvin Luna, Trent Stoller, a son of Stay Hungry, out of a Better's Delight mare. First foal from a Better's Delight mare. always something to keep an eye on there. Stay Hungry, Breeders' Crown champion. He beat Schnitzel Do Something in that Breeders' Crown, and I think that was the son of Fred and Ginger, and I know you guys had him later on, made over $1 million, but Stay Hungry, maybe not a huge name in the stallion ranks, but he seems to throw some pretty respectable racehorses out there.
Yeah, he's a sire of Brew Hanover right now, who's, just going great guns, but he's had good fillies, and he's a good second-rate sire for PA. Like, he maybe hasn't quite reached the level of Captain Treacherous or Lose, but probably didn't get the mares, but, has held his own, and, I think Brad's probably got a better sire on the way, though. I think Bulldog, first two I've had for him have been outstanding. They both qualifiers great. That was a horse they had to make a believer out of me. I thought he was good, not great. Boy, did I eat them words. Like, we decided, one time in the Dayton Derby to throw every horse at him, took him all over the track, and at the wire, he was on top by 4 running off from us. And I thought, okay, you are great. You are not just good, you are great.
I think Bulldog Hanover was still picking up speed an eighth of a mile after the wire. He was just an absolute machine once he got wound up. And it's going to be interesting with this first crop. This was that limited crop where they bred him up in Canada that first year before they brought him back to the racetrack. So didn't really get the best mares. He's got a better crop of mares coming next year from that first crop. So, but again, you've got 2 that you really like, and I think you qualified out at Magical Acres earlier this week. So again, good things early on for Bulldog Hanover.
Yeah, like the filly come a half in 53, and Yannick's basically saying he's going to wherever she goes. If he's, races in Canada, he's going. And the colt, Brad gave a lot of money for him. He was $350, but beautiful animal. And he was kind of behind. Then he was like, oh, wait, he's catching up. And then boom, first qualifier 25-3 coming home, second qualifier 54-27, and he looks the part too. So, I can only go off the 2 I have. They're beautiful horses, great attitudes. I got to believe he's going to make a sire.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, with a stallion, are you a believer? Obviously, Bulldog Hanover, a little bit of a late bloomer, didn't do much at 2, came on late at 3, just continued to get better and better, and then 4 is where he really exploded. Are you a believer that stallion needs to show 2-year-old speed if you're going to buy into him? Do you think that translates, or do you think a good racehorse is a good racehorse?
I guess you want to show. He showed enough, and I remember he at the end of his 3-year-old year here, he went a mile like 48-4 in the rain and thing, and I called Brad and said that's like a 45 mile, and like little did we know it was exactly what it was, because the horse was sitting on a 45 mile. He just at that point, but I still didn't realize his greatness. I always said for sure Some Beach Somewhere was the greatest racehorse I ever saw on the pace. By the end, I was like, I'm not saying this one's better, but I'm not saying if you said you were, I wouldn't argue with you. I mean, he was doing special things against great horses who were trying to beat him, and it just didn't matter. You couldn't put him in a bad enough spot to get beat.
Yeah, that 46-3 mile here at Hoosier on the Hoosier Park Basin Derby night, that upended the track record that was established by Sweet Lou almost a decade earlier, that held for a long time, 47-2. Weren't sure we were going to ever see a 46-mile here at Hoosier Park, and he did it, and looked like he had more left in the tank. Just an absolute specimen. But again, that 47-2 mile by Sweet Lou, that held for a long time. That was the mark here at Hoosier for a good long time.
Yeah, no, but that Bulldog, he did some things that were like wild, like very impressed with him. So I got to believe he's going to pass it on now. And, and like I said, early reports, they ain't bad. So
we've got the 12th race pacers in line behind the gate. We'll send it up to Michael for any changes before he announces his 12th.
Field is moving around the second turn. Just one scratch to report here of the one Waggy. So a field of 6 going postward. Horses now turning into the stretch. Here they come. They are off. Away well is Royal Richie Doyle down on the inside. Talk Softly, and Skyway Shack comes away third. Saki is next in fourth, then Shady Shark 10, and Playboy is the early trailer. They move on to the first turn with Royal Richie Doyle in front. Royal Richie Doyle has it by a length. Second is Talk Softly, and then racing third, Skyway Shack. First quarter's on the board in 31-1. 2 lengths behind Skyway Shack comes Sagi, and then it's Shady Shark 10 and Playboy. On the back stretch now, Royal Richie Doyle. Michael Lustig put this one right in front and still in front. Next in second is Talk Softly. Skyway Shack racing third, about 4 lengths off the lead. Another 2 back to Sagi, who has fourth. And then the last 2 are Shady Shark 10 and Playboy. Half mile on the board, 101-2. 30-1 for the second quarter. And they're moving to the second turn. Royal Richie Doyle still in front. Next is Talk Softly. After that, third, Skyway Shack. Sagi is fourth. Another length and a half, Shady Shark 10, and Playboy is 3 behind that. Coming to the top of the stretch, Royal Richie Doyle is the leader. That lead is 2 lengths. Second is Talk Softly. Skyway Shack now angles out third. 3 quarters, 1:31-2, a 32nd third quarter. Royal Richie Doyle. To the outside is Skyway Shack. To the inside is Talk Softly. 3 lengths back to Sagi in fourth. But it is Royal Richie Doyle holding on to the lead. Talk Softly and Skyway Shack. Royal Richie Doyle in front coming to the finish. And it was Royal Richie Doyle all the way in front. Talk Softly, followed by Skyway Shack and Sagi in 1:58-2.
27 flat home for Royal Richie Doyle, who's going to lead every step of the way in his first qualifier. 1:58-2. A good effort there from a horse from a good family and a good barn trainer, Tyler George, with Mike Ustin doing the driving. Also thought a good effort by the 2. Talk Softly. Marcus Miller kept him right on the Mike Ustin helmet until right before the wire finally tipped him off and let him pace a little bit. But a very good effort by both of those 2.
Yeah, no, they look both well within themselves, finishing in the 27 quarter into it. Like, the wind hasn't let up at all. I just looked at the flag; it's still straight out. So that was good for both of them. They were definitely the best 2 in that field, at least today. But looked apart, and that's nice to when you finish 27 flat and you're both totally wrapped up.
Skyway Shack tried to go first up. Can be tough for a young horse when you had to go first up in that first qualifier. Maybe getting a little tired at the end of it going into that headwind. But nonetheless, good effort and a good learning experience. And they kind of raced his horses a little bit around the last half. So certainly an experience Skyway Shack could maybe build on as well.
Yeah, you just hate to ever give up length the last 100 yards. That's the thing is you don't know when you're pulling them what you're pulling into. There's no, prior performances to know what's going on. And if your colt feels good and you come, but then they're sitting on 2, look like 2 really good colts finished 1-2. So, you just got to now next week go back to the drawing board and be maybe a little even more cautious.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on those guys moving forward as we're going to jump ahead to the 13th. We're down to the final 2 baby races of now this afternoon. Are reaching the 1 o'clock hour. We go to 13th, and we've got a field of 7 more 2-year-old paces, a good mix here as well. We've got JK's Rocket Images, Odds on Aquilius, Tell Like It Is. We've even got a Tall Dark Stranger in this spot. So we'll go through the field here. The 1, Got My Tight Pants On, Kevin Lambright for Rick Plano. Rick Plano, homebred, daughter of Tell It Like It Is, out of a Santana Blue Chip mare that made over $125,000. The 2, Odds on Candy, Pete and Melanie Wren, one of those daughters of Odds on Aquilius. Did qualify once before. That was a second place effort in 2 minutes and change. The 3, Public Knowledge, is that daughter of Tall Dark Stranger, Marcus Miller, Irv Miller, and the 6th foal from a good mare, Hurricane Shmumma. She's produced the likes of Hurricane Empress and Hurricane Emperor, that graduate winner, 147 flat, made over $500,000. Very fast, very good horse there when he was sound. 4, Wine Party from the Macumber Barn. Daughter of Captain Midnight, 2nd foal from a Dragon Again mare. Got home in 26-2 in that first qualifier. I think did everything Ricky was looking for there. 5, Make Rockin' Sensation, another Irv Miller horse. This one, instead of Rockin' Image, coming off a second place qualifier effort where he did get tracked down at the end of it, but still got home in 27-1. That's the first foal from a McCardle mare. 6, Don't Cuss Russ, Jordan Ross and Missy Essig, another son of Rock and Image. That's the third foal from a Western Ideal mare that made $100,000. She's produced the likes of Jada Caroline, so this one a half brother to that Indiana Sire Stakes champion from a year ago who's made over $360,000. And the 7, Baby Billy, John Long, Roger Welch, another well-bred one here, J.K. Envenera out of a Camluck mare. A 12th foal from that mare. She's had 3 that made at least $250,000. Always a Voom or Bang made over $430,000, and Voomerang made over $300,000. So some good pedigrees here as we keep rolling on with our baby races.
Yeah, no, this is why, though, if you're serious about betting, I have, friends that are very big gamblers. They say you have to come and then watch qualifiers yourself, because you get a real feel for who really finished with pace and who finished with fake pace. Big thing is watch the pace out too. Like a lot of times, some of the best pacing in these baby races is done after the wire. So I'm anxious to see the 3. Did it make a big break last week, or just was it a little skip? But that horse showed talent. Ricky's, if he's a little more aggressive with him this week, does it fire? The last quarter looks great. Hopefully the 5 doesn't get stuck on the lead again. You hate to have to cut 2 back-to-back qualifiers. And you're looking for improvements from the rest of these. Cool name, Don't Cuss Russ, like that. So this is going to be a good thing. Pete's filly looked like it could have been good too. A nice, pace home from there. So another one that there's reasons to believe there's talent in this group.
Yeah, and I like the 7, Baby Billy, Righteous Gemstones. If you're a fan of that show, you get Baby Billy in the spot. Roger Welch, very, very conservative a lot of times with the 2-year-olds, not going to beat him up early, and I think that's the case here with the first couple qualifiers, and I think that was the case with Baby Billy. Drew outside last week. They just kind of took him to the back, let him finish the mile. Okay, I didn't show too much there, but Roger's known for bringing him along slowly, and sometimes that's not always a bad thing. Again, we've got a lot of racing to do this year. The big money's not on the line until October. So it's okay to take a little bit longer. It's better to be a little bit late than maybe a little bit early.
Well, some of them are going to make you take it slowly. You can't make a horse do what he can't do. And there will be time that you will find horses that are slower learners that end up being great horses. It's a lot of it, I think, has to do with size. For whatever reason, the smaller horses seem like they're quicker. They're more coordinated, and they tend to come to it quicker. The big horses, a lot of time, I always feel better if it's one of them struggling. If you're struggling with a little one, you're probably up against it. But the big ones, a lot of time, they'll put it together, they'll figure it out later, and then they'll have 3 lungs, and you'll be impressed with them. So, you can't get too down on the first start, but you do not want to give up lengths. That's the whole thing. As long as you're coming forward at the wire, I'm always happy.
I think a lot of these drivers understand that well. I know you've got Trace on both of yours this morning. He does a great job with these young horses. He's a son of a horseman. He knows that side of things as well, wanting to have one that finishes the mile. But how important is the driver, finding the right driver for these horses to teach them, give them the right education, and still have them go forward?
It's the most important thing. No knock on any, and I have great drivers that I use on, but Chris Page, if you watch him, he is the gold standard on teaching a baby how to race. Doesn't care, it's not going to hurt him. He doesn't care if we got to go 3 qualifiers. The other day we went a big half, and I said, we're still not qualified. It's tire stakes. And he's like, don't worry about it, we'll go again. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll just keep doing this. But, he is convinced that they are going to learn right. They're not going to finish tired. And, it was probably good for me because I don't have the most patience in the world. And sometimes I want instant gratification. But Chris has taught me, my son's starting to drive and is doing baby races at home. And I said, watch Chris. That is what we want. See what Chris is doing. That is how we do it.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, you have Trace this morning. Ricky did a lot of qualifying for you guys back in the day, too, when he was helping manage. He's got good hands for a young horse. Another guy that thinks like a trainer a lot out there, so he knows what you're looking for, and he'll be very good and patient with a good 2-year-old.
Yeah, a lot of times you just have to realize that, you're looking at the long term of best for the horse. And, and it's harder for, I guess, even some of the top catch drivers because they have to test them a little bit because, there's going to be a point where they have to make a pick and they don't want to pick the wrong one. So I get it. But it's nice, sometimes when you have a relationship with the driver that they're not picking over you no matter what. So they're going to just do whatever's best for that horse because they're going as far as your horses are going to go. So, Chris, Ronnie Wren, Yannick, I like the way they're thinking. Ricky, I mean, he saved Hannah-Laura's career, like teaching her to do it the right way when she wanted to, like, maybe not really buy into the program. And when he finally got her, to make a complete racehorse, Yannick kind of got a lot of the credit for what Ricky did.
Yeah, very good head on Ricky's shoulders. And I think that's the cool thing, too, about the Hoosier Park Driver Colony. Trace Dietrich obviously won 11 straight driving titles, but it's gotten a little deeper behind him now in the last couple of years. Mike Goosteen, great hands, great driver. Pete Wren, guys like that. But now we've got Marcus Miller in the mix. We've seen what John DeLong's done the last couple of years. We're getting some depth in that driver colony that maybe we didn't have for a little while.
It's the best it's ever been. Kyle Wilfong, Marvin Luna. I mean, you can go now, basically, if you get a bad driver, you wanted one. Like, there's plenty of good drivers to go around. I love it. That's one of the reasons we've came back to racing here more. Like before, if you didn't get Trace, sometimes you felt like you were up against it. Every one of these other guys have gotten better, and a bunch of guys showed up. Atlee does a great job, and then it's made it so much nicer to race here because you always feel like you have a shot now.
We see the field for the 13th behind the starting gate. We'll send it out to Michael for changes in the call.
Field on the second turn now, and we have a scratch of the 1, Got My Tight Pants On. Number 5, McRockin' Sensation. The driver is Atlee Bender. Horses are now in the stretch. Here they come. They are off. Good beginning here for Don't Cuss Russ, who is right out for the lead. Next is Wine Party to the inside, and McRockin' Sensation comes away third. Odds On Candy is fourth. Then Public Knowledge and Baby Billy at the back end of the field. As they go on to the turn, it's Don't Cuss Russ. Don't Cuss Russ in front by a length. Next is Wine Party. McRockin' Sensation third through a first quarter of 29-1. There's a break of 3 lengths then to Odds On Candy. Public Knowledge is fifth, and Baby Billy remains the trailer. On the backstretch, Don't Cuss Russ, Jordan Ross put that one right in front and is still in front. Next is Wine Party. McRockin' Sensation is racing third. And getting closer now, Odds On Candy fourth with Public Knowledge and Baby Billy. They hit the half in 58-2, another 29-1 quarter. It is Don't Cuss Russ with the advantage going on to the second turn. Don't Cuss Russ has it just over a length now. Second is Wine Party. McRockin' Sensation followed by Odds On Candy. Public Knowledge moves to the outside, and then Baby Billy. Coming to the top of the stretch with Don't Cuss Russ in front, and they now move to the outside with Wine Party. Ricky McCumber Jr. brings Wine Party up and sweeps to the lead. 3 quarters, 128-3, a 30-1 third quarter, and Wine Party's in front. McRockin' Sensation, Don't Cuss Russ down on the inside trying to rebound, and then Public Knowledge. Here comes McRockin' Sensation, and McRockin' Sensation taking the lead. McRockin' Sensation in deep stretch will win for Atlee Bender. Wine Party, then Don't Cuss Russ, and Public Knowledge, 156-2.
Qualifier.
Good effort by McRockin' Sensation. Ron, you touched on it before they were going to the gate. They put him on the engine last week, got tracked down at the end of it. Still not a bad effort, but they raced him from off the pace tonight, and he finishes with all kind of smoke. That's a good last quarter, 56-2. They were rolling the first 3 quarters a little bit more than we'd seen for much of the morning, so very, very good effort there from him.
Yeah, no, that was good. Ricky's colt was good. Fought all the way to the wire under minimal urging. Like, it was another good qualifier. Maybe the track's getting a little bit faster, but the wind's still blowing. So like these horses that are pacing home, I think you're going to see these horses will be that when they come back off this day, they're going to come back with even better miles. This is not going to be one of the days that's a fake qualifier. These things are legit.
I was also encouraged by the 6 Don't Cuss Russ. He did all the heavy lifting on the front. Thought he was in trouble around the last turn when they started swarm in. Was worried he was going to go backward. Actually fought, though, and kind of rebounded once he got a target back in front of him. Didn't end up coming back by him, but at the very least dug in once he got looked in the eye.
Yeah, it's hard to cut these miles on these big tracks, and you see Irv's horse come back out of the pocket and flew home, so, I'm sure they'll look to not put him on the other horse on the lead next week too. And, but very good effort. Still, I think the one colt of the Stutzmans is still probably the star of the day, but like there's a lot of depth today, a lot of good horses that, good careers are going to be made today.
And then we're going to come back with the finale, the 14th and final qualifying race of the morning, and the one we've been waiting on. Ron, that's the 5. Tell It Like This. Trace Teatrick will be in the bike for you. A well-bred one here. Tell It Like It Is out of a Sweet Lou mare. First full from that mare. You qualified this one once out at the Meadows. What's kind of the vibes coming into this morning?
You know what? All those horses have come back. Gentili, Shikari are both mine with great qualifiers. Those are good fillies. She held off. We've already been really high on this. It's out of a Sweet Lou mare, which I think as good as a sire as he's going to be. He's going to be a better sire, broodmare sire. Falcon Silster was a great broodmare sire, and he has that in his bloodline. They got the half and 3 and 2 when I'm on 2-1. That's pretty good. And the horse hung in tough. I think this is a pretty good filly. It looks like there's other horses in here, though, that showed 27 last week. So, everybody's going to be looking to. I hope we don't end up on the lead here, but I could see it possibly.
Yeah, every horse in this qualifier has at least one qualifier under their belt already. So we'll work our way down this field. The 1 Bluebird Modern Girl, Kaiwan Waldron, an assistant trainer, and doing some catch driving as well here at Hoosier Park. Young guy, 25 years old. He's hopping in the bike for his boss, Ricky McCumber Jr. This one just looked a little green out there. Got a little bit lost. That daughter from Captain Midnight, 5th full from a dam that made over $100,000 and always a virgin mare. The 2 odds-on fastball, Pete Melanie ran another odds-on Aquilius filly. This one out of a good mare, Love You Always. She's continued to produce. She's produced Peter Dalt, PBR Street Gang, Bluebird Love, and many others that have been a factor in this Indiana program. The 3, The Works. Irv Miller gets this son of Tell It Like It Is out of Ha Cha Cha Cha. Irv actually trained the mare as well. She was a good sire stakes filly. Her 2-year-old year made over $168,000. Daughter of Always a Virgin. The 4, Splash of Glory. Llewellyn Miller trains and drives a daughter of Always a Virgin. One of the last couple of crops of Always a Virgin. Ron, wanted to get your thoughts on him. Obviously retired from stud duty a couple of years ago. He was the first big-time stallion this program kind of got when we got slots and they got the money involved. He came in after his 3-year-old year and had a lot of good years. Obviously, Always Be Mickey Colors Virgin. You had Always at My Place, who was very good from him. Just a rock-solid stallion and really changed the game here.
Yeah, no, he was the one that, that was the first one that you could take him away from here and be competitive. Probably, don't get in my way, and then, Always Virgin. And his son, has went on Always Be Mickey, has sired some of the best horses, out there. So definitely moved the game along. And seems like the mares are going all right too now. Like they're holding their own as a broodmare sire.
Then you come back to the 5. We talked about Tell It Like This. The 6, Aruba Rays, John DeLong, Miss Essig. This is another one from that first crop of Highlighter. First full from a Camluck mare that made over $133,000. The 7, Rockin' Summer, Ricky McCumber Jr. trains and drives. This is a Rockin' Image filly out of a Tell It Like It Is, a mare. Tell Me It's Summer. She was a good mare, made over $40,000. She won the Go On BB Series one year for trainer driver Llewellyn Miller. Trying to pull that first good full from her. I liked her a lot as a racehorse. She had Milk of the Poppy, and then we were talking a little bit off air. You had the what would be the 3-year-old JK Summer Express. Just kind of had a few issues she couldn't get over.
You know what? Probably that's what usually happens. You buy the first one and you're not happy, and then you don't look at the second one, and then that's the good one. I think Aki has made a career of following me. The ones I'll buy the bad one, then he buys the good one. Or maybe it's just better than me. But you just sometimes when you get a bad taste in your mouth on the family, we really did like her, but it wasn't our type. She was frail, and I just think, maybe we pushed her too hard. So even if it was my fault, she still had to pay the price.
And what do you think of that cross? Rocket Image tell it like it is. They're half brothers, so they're getting a little bit closer. We've seen this a couple times now, where this is a combination that breeders in the state have gone to. Do you like that cross, or would you steer clear of that?
I don't like it. It's like with Cantab and Muscle Hill, and there's so much and so many of the horses you're going to end up breeding closer and closer. That's why I think like horses that why Chapter 7 did so good. He was such an outcross. I don't really like it. It just seems weird.
We come back to the 8th. We've got My Sweet Becky, a daughter of Captain Crunch, out of a Cam Scarf Shark mare. Happy Becky. Happy Becky was a good 2-year-old. She raced out of the Casey Coleman barn. She chased JK. She's a lady in that Horse of the Year campaign. But My Sweet Becky, second qualifier for her. Unfortunately, just got away in the back. Got a little bit lost last week. She's going to be looking to take a step forward. Swiss Lights is the Ricky McCumber horse that I was thinking of last week. They qualified so well. Qualified in 55-2. Swiss Lights was just head and shoulders above that group. So maybe if she's in a little bit more competitive spot, they'll be looking for My Sweet Becky to be a little bit more competitive here. That being said, they're starting to make their way onto the track, and we got to look at the 5 Tell It Like This. She's a good-looking filly out there on the racetrack, pretty simply rigged, pretty easy to get along with, pretty professional out there training down.
She's been perfect the whole way down. Like really, we had 2 of them actually, and somehow the other one didn't get staked. We don't know yet. Like we all pointed fingers, like we tried to figure out how it happened. But nice thing is we could stake her for next year, so we'll just race her a couple times. But this was the better one, and this is a Frank Baldacchino had to have pick. So hopefully it turns out good for Frank, or he won't hear the end of it either.
I think Frank's got a couple other good ones. I think he's still going to have an all right year. I know he's got a Freaky Feet Pete I root for quite a bit. Angel at Your Feet. She was third in Sire Stakes the other week. Frank Baldacchino, I don't think of anyone has supported the Indiana program much more than him. He has just been a huge supporter, really, from the word go.
Yeah, but Frank knows how it is in our barn. Your last one is who you are. So, like, you better hope this one does good.
Absolutely. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Tell It Like This as we're watching them come by again. There's the 7 Rockin' Summer. She's one I'm looking forward to. Getting out of that Tell It Like It Is mare. Tell Me It's Summer. Hard to believe we're already to the point where we're getting Tell It Like It Is brood mares, but he has been around for a little while now. I think on the pacing side, that's where Indiana's probably looking for a new Stallion, and Lou Print might be just that, or not Lou Print, Lou Bet rather, who's come now standing at Premier Acres. And I know you guys, we're very high on him as a 2-year-old. What's been the feedback? I know he's very early on in the Stallion process, but I think he's gotten some full books to start at least.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be very good. And, just you got to hope for the best. And, it's sad. Like if you don't start off good, it looks like it becomes a struggle. But, I think from here, we'll find out soon.
Look forward to that a couple of years down the road when Lou Bet starts to make his footprint in this Indiana program. Again, we've got the final qualifier of the morning gathering out on the racetrack. Ron, I know we're getting ready to wrap things up here. Want to thank you again for just taking the time to do this. I think it was maybe a little bit more time than we all thought it would be with 14 qualifiers this morning, but you've been a trooper, and just really appreciate you doing this and showing your support to the Indiana program.
Okay, thank you very much. Got to go.
In the 14th race, Scratch the 4, Splash of Glory, and My Sweet Becky will be driven by Jordan Ross. Jordan Ross drives the 8 in this final qualifier. Field is now moving into the stretch for this 14th and final qualifier today. Don't forget, we're back with 14 races tonight at 6:15, normal post time. Here they come. They are off. Right out for the lead, Aruba Rays. To the outside is Rockin' Summer. And then it's Odds On Fastball and The Works. Bluebird Modern Girl is 3 lengths behind that pair. Then Tell It Like This. And up on the outside, My Sweet Becky. Field goes on to the first turn, and the leader is Rockin' Summer. Rockin' Summer now in front by 2.5. Aruba Rays is second, followed by Odds On Fastball and The Works. Another 2.5 to Bluebird Modern Girl. And then after that, Tell It Like This. The trailer is My Sweet Becky. First quarter was 29-1. They're on the back stretch. Rockin' Summer in front 2 lengths. Aruba Rays second, then 4. Back to Odds On Fastball third. The Works is fourth. Another 3 back to Bluebird Modern Girl. Tell It Like This is sixth, and My Sweet Becky trails. Half mile 58-2. The second quarter 29-1 as well. As they go on to the turn, Rockin' Summer in front has it by 2.5. Aruba Rays second by 2. Then Odds On Fastball with The Works. And now moving up is Tell It Like This. Tell It Like This is advanced into fifth as they come to the top of the stretch. 3 quarters in 127-3. So again, they go 29-1, and Rockin' Summer is in front. Rockin' Summer by 2. Aruba Rays is second with The Works on the outside, as well as Tell It Like This. Still Rockin' Summer, Aruba Rays trying to come through on the inside. Tell It Like This, closing strongly here on the outside. Tell It Like This, going past the longtime leader, and Tell It Like This does win. Aruba Rays got up for second over Rockin' Summer, then The Works in 156-2.